What would you do if you could recreate the world after your own image? Would you even be able to do it? Do you have the strength and willpower to change the world? You've heard about Nocturne, right? That very hard, punishing, unfair, infuriating game. It's what someone who would really want clicks called the Dark Souls of JRPG. But I'm here today to tell you that Nocturne isn't that at all. It's challenging, and those are two very different things. Nocturne's main goal is to tell you, the player, that you have what it takes to make the world yours, no matter how dire things may be, and it does this with unparalleled game design and story integration. Nocturne is already challenging you even before the game starts. The game opens with this foreboding music, and a prophecy foretells the end of the world. Things can't get any worse than the literal end of the world, right? This is a great way to put the player in the worst situation possible, showing that if you can surpass this challenge, you can surpass everything in life. But, as we finally press start, we are met with hope, not despair. The game now gives you a moment of reprieve, a moment of solitude, a moment to think and prepare. This is a genius game design decision. This is the way of the devs telling you that everything will be alright. You haven't even started playing yet the game already told you everything it is about. From this safe space we can decide on what kind of adventure we want to go in. The menu isn't very good at telling you what the different options offer, but that's what I'm here to do. As we press the New Game button, Nocturne again shows its true colors. We're met with this incredible banger of music, and a young boy and an old woman, or, depending on the setting you choose, an old man with a young woman, setting the tone and creating intrigue right from the get-go. This banger is ominous, but if you listen closely, there's hope there too. The new game option is Vanilla Nocturne, the game as it was when it released back in 2003 in Japan. The Maniacs version has a bunch of extra content, like an additional dungeon, tons of new bosses, a new ending, and it features Dante from the Devil May Cry series. The Chronicles version is the exact same as Maniacs, but includes Raito Kozunua from another game made by Atlas. If you want to know more about him, the next video will cover his game, so be sure to subscribe. After selecting your preferred option, we are greeted by one of my favorite scenes in the game. This scene looks so ethereal, so holy, so out of this world, so calming. Here we meet our teacher, Yuku Takao, and here she tells us a couple of things that I want to emphasize.
A world that loses its power will fade into nothing. The world must first die for it to be born again.
I empathize heavily with these words. Someone who's battled depression for a long time, I can see a parallel here. Each one of us have our own worlds inside of us. I have lost all my power before, my willpower, and I indeed faded into nothing.
The world will fall for its sins, and everyone living will vanish. But I won't let you meet the same fate. I want to help you hold on to your life.
Beautiful message here. Even when we are at our lowest, at the end of the world, we can still count on others for help. And again, I empathize heavily with these words because if not for all the support my mother gave me, I wouldn't be here today.
As of now, your will to live shall sustain you. Believe in it and survive.
Well, this is literally the game telling you that this experience will be a test of your willpower. The main thesis of this video. It can't get any more literal than that. The rest of this conversation is all about how the world will die and how Yuku will be the nurturer of the next world. A heavy burden to carry for sure. She does show some sadness by saying she won't shed another tear, but the end of the world is already set in stone and she is determined to fulfill her role as the mother of the next one. We then begin the game proper and receive a message telling us to go to Yoyogi Park as soon as possible, as we are to meet with Takao there. The sender of the message is our friend Izumu, and let me tell you, just by this text exchange, I already hate him. Guy wants a private session with the teacher, giving some Tomochika vibes, and tells us to dress to impress, cause we represent him by association, and that we are only the mood maker. Real creep this Izumu is. I'll let this opportunity say that I don't know if I'm the only one, but what the fuck is this drip on our protagonist? Seems like he got a bunch of random clothes from a thrift store or a trash can, with no intention at all to make a cool outfit. This shit seems all over the place. We talk to the station attendant and he informs us that there was a deadly riot in Yoyogi Park. Things get dark as soon as they can. We then leave to the overworld map, which is a staple in Mega 10 games. Here you can talk to NPCs to get more information about the world. This guy here says he's been having a dream where everything is round, even the world itself, but not in the way the real world is. These girls mention a guy named Ikawa, which is excellent to put him on our mind as he'll be relevant later. They say he's really hot, but if you look at the giant screen next to them, you can see him and excuse me, you're telling me this Count Vegeta is hot? At least that gives me a huge boost in self-confidence. Anyways, the news says Ikawa is missing and that he is the top executive of Cyrus Communications. Incidentally, the news also say the riot broke out because of the construction of a communication tower. For the last of the NPCs, I wanna mention, take a look at this couple.
Did you hear about the riot where 3 people died? What if we're next? You don't gotta worry about that, babe. Why? Because we're about to start our own little riot in the bedroom.
2000 games really were built different. After arriving at Yoyogi Park, we met this dripped out man. He says that the riot was in reality a struggle between 2 cults. Things were already looking pretty bad, but...
I think that's your phone going off.
Hey, are you there? Finally, I got a hold of you. What's taking you so long?
Okay, so we're supposed to meet our teacher at the hospital? Sure, going right away. This is our friend Chiaki calling. What's interesting about these conversations is the disparity between the two of our friends. Chiaki says she's preoccupied with her future and that she's going to ask our teacher for career advice, while Izumu doesn't give a fuck about that and thinks pretty much like a really dumb teenager would. After that, Ijiri says he's also headed for the hospital and says that the place is not what it seems. It is also related to the occult. He hands us a book that talks about the scripture of Miroko, the same scripture that was quoted during the intro of the game. As we're heading to the hospital, someone tells us there's a rumor that a demon was spotted during the time of the incident. See how the game is slowly putting the stakes higher and higher? When we arrive at our destination, we see Chiaki and a big strange mural that doesn't fit an hospital at all. Not only that, but she tells us that the place is completely empty. She asks us to go look for Izumu and just sits on her ass instead of helping us. We then proceed to go through the hospital and this place feels extremely eerie. After we find Izumu, who says he's looked all over the place, we decide to head back to Chiaki. In the magazine we gave her, she mentions that the group called the Ring of Gaia wants to bring chaos to the world, and that they're closely linked to the hospital. Izumu corroborates this, saying he's heard they performed experiments on patients and that the cult is behind all of that. He then gives us a card to access the basement and tells us to go look for our teacher there. As soon as we reach the basement, we see blood on the floor, and as we explore, we come across one of my favorite rooms in the game. This place just confirms what we already knew, but seeing it down here all of a sudden is a shock nonetheless. One thing is hearing about a thing, another is seeing them for ourselves. As we explore, we enter a door that starts an incredible cutscene. Just the beginning shot is insane. The man turns around, and it's the Count Vegeta. He's immediately pissed off because we disturbed the stillness. He talks about how the salvation of this world is written in the scripture of Miroko and that the old world will die and a new one shall be born. What a crazy motherfucker. He also says that even a pebble creates ripples in water, meaning that even small things can cause drastic change, and because of that he intends to kill us by summoning one of the most iconic demons in history, Baphomet. Now, a parallel that I want to point out here is that, at least for me when I had depression, every little thing I made counted in the road for recovery. The days were hard, but through the small ripples I made every day, I turned my life around. Now I'm feeling much better. After that, the cow is the one who comes to our rescue. She says the deal between her and Ikawa is over if he doesn't spare us. Looks like he needs her for his plans of making a new world. Ikawa agrees and says he wants to spend his last moments in solitude. Again, mention of solitude. It's very important to his character. After that, our teacher asks us to meet her on the roof. On our way there, we're met with a creepy duo of a child and an old lady. The child seems to have taken an interest in us. The intrigue keeps growing. When we reach the rooftop, our teacher informs us of the conception. The end of the world brought forth by chaos that will kill everyone in it. Our teacher has faith in us though. She believes that we will survive the conception. She also gives us the mission of finding her to get the answers to the many mysteries presented to us so far. Then, all of a sudden, the conception begins. It's again another great scene that makes this game stand apart from other JRPGs.
Who would enter my world, reveal your heart to me. You have nothing stirring within you, not even a hint of reason. For the one who will shape the world, this cannot be. Go forth and discover yourself. What will be the legacy of your existence?
Then, in one of the creepiest scenes in the game, the dynamic duo appears again. And just take a look for yourself at what happens next.
Please try not to struggle. It will only hurt for an instant.
The parasite we ingested is called a Magatama. It's the essence of demon power. Those two motherfuckers just turned us into a demon. Then we proceed to one iconic scene of this game, the awakening of the Demi-Fiend. This section appeared in the Nocturne HD remaster trailer, and it's actually the sole reason that made me want to buy this game. And with that, we begin the game proper. The introduction was absolutely amazing. It made so many good things to the game. From setting up the tone and atmosphere to building up characters and intrigue. And now, we wake up in the bloodied hospital room, and it seems we are still in Shinjuku Medical Center. Now, the genius thing that the game did in its introduction is that it made us explore the very first dungeon of the game in a non-intrusive, safe, and logical way. It made sense for us to explore the old hospital because we were looking for our teacher, and now we know well the layout of the dungeon. The dungeon also has strong theming. It's not just some random woods or a castle. This is the hospital that was prominently and thoroughly talked about and explored in the intro, giving the dungeon a unique vibe. There's a story behind it, and that's important. All of the intro was building up to this place. The rumors of the occult, the hospital being deserted, us not being able to find our teacher, all of that gives meaning to this place. This is just genius game design, making you traverse to the tutorial dungeon first with no real adversity and then thrusting it onto you again with a completely different tone and perspective. The first thing we find when we exit the hospital room is a soul of the deceased in the conception, and I love these things from the game design perspective. As you explore the dungeons, you can be rewarded with treasures, yes, but you can also be rewarded with these NPC souls that give you a lot of vital information, be it gameplay related, things related to the setting, or just character and world building. They're really fantastic. It's always a pleasure to find one and see what they have to say. It almost always proves to be something useful, so the designers really went the extra mile with this mechanic. And they put up the very first departed soul right next to the exit. It's the very first thing the players will see after all that shit has happened. And this soul calls us a demon. Now, this is very important. Why did the designers choose this to be the very first thing the player hears? Well, the Demi-Fiend is a silent protagonist, so an insert for the player. It's a way to feel like this is your adventure and that's you that's doing the stuff, not some pre-existing character. Now, usually in most RPGs you self-insert as the hero trying to save the world, but not here. Here you're playing as a demon, in a world being rebirthed, full of chaos and destruction. You see now why the designers decided to put this here at the very beginning? Is to tell the player that Nocturne isn't one of your typical RPGs. You're a demon, to yourself and to everybody else. After that you can go either left or right. If you go left, there will be a locked door. If you go right, you will be in the room where Ikawa previously was. But now there's a strange symbol on it. As we enter, we meet none other than our boy Ijiri. He immediately recognizes us and is shocked at what happened to us. Nonetheless, he tells us something very important, that we still think like a human. And of course we do. We are humans after all. But in this game we are also a demon. So what influence will this demon who thinks like a human have in the world? That just makes the player want to play more, to find out what our actions can accomplish, what our willpower can do. Anyways, Ijiri tells us that it's not safe out there because there are demons roaming around, so we will stay back there and try to study the cylinder. He says that what he knows about the occult, the conception definitely happened, and this cylinder belonged to Ikawa. Of course, we already know that, but it's fun nonetheless seeing Ijiri figuring things out for himself. He then tells us that since we're more powerful than him, we should go and look for answers ourselves. By the way, this is also the place where you can save your game. Glad the designers put it right at the beginning. That's a wise thing to make for any aspiring game designers watching this. After heading to the next room over, there's a spirit, and this is what it tells you.
What would a demon like you want with me? I'll heal your wounds, so please don't decide to eat me.
See how we playing as a demon makes a difference? He heals you because he's afraid of you, begs for mercy, and in return, he will heal us. This is peak game design. Not only is it a good idea to have a healer nearby, they also integrated the themes of the story with this simple NPC, and not many games can do that. The spirit is standing in the bloody hospital bed, and since he can heal you, we can probably assume he was some kind of doctor who got experimented on. Really messed up shit. As we proceed through the only available path, we find another soul who asks if we are yet another demon looking for Magatsui. So, demons pursue Magatsui? What even is that? Well, for now it's a mystery that incentivizes the player to keep pushing forward. We then reach a door that says that there's an immense presence behind it. Megaten games usually do this to warn players that there's a challenge incoming, so we can heal up or save before going in. Again, good game design. It also causes some tension in the player, which is the right emotion to cause here. When we enter, we're transported to a place I can only call as out of this world. It's a completely original setting, full of reds that emphasize its oppressive nature. It gives Nocturne a lot of its charm. And this is just one of many examples on why Nocturne is king in terms of atmosphere. We then are greeted by the dynamic duo, but their ages are now reversed. They tell us to show them the strength of a demon, teasing the player and encouraging them at the same time. Just who the hell are these two? It's such a compelling mystery. Who are they? What do they want with us? What's their role? What's their goal? It's questions like these that make the player feel motivated to continue playing. Intrigue is a great tool for that. As we proceed, we're immediately rewarded with an item, a medicine, to help us survive in battle. Nocturne has these items everywhere to reward exploration and to make the player feel more powerful. They provide a lot of useful tools for exploring dungeons. These range from a high pool of items. We will cover them as we find them. And all of a sudden, we are attacked by two demons. Brace yourselves for our very first battle. The first one is against two will-o-wisps. There's nothing really special about this battle, except that they move first. I think this is the designer's way of telling you that this game won't hold your hand. This is an extremely simple tutorial battle. The only thing you can really do is basic attacks, but these demons will drain some of your HP. This teaches the player that resource management will be important in the future. Use those medicines wisely. In this case it's not necessary, but you are the one who needs to choose when it's the best time to use them. Again, challenge from the game. When you do so, you can allocate stats. You can maximize strength to make a strength build, magic for a magic build, vitality to gain more HP, agility to increase your speed in battles, or luck, which affects a lot of different things. For this playthrough though, we're going for a full glass cannon mage, which is what I normally do in Megatam games. The Magatama you ingested can also give beneficial effects during a level up. In this case it recovered our HP. This is a great design decision to maintain the player's momentum in exploring. Another battle follows up, but this time we learn something new. Notice these icons at the top? It's the amount of actions you can do in a turn. This battle system is called the press turn system and is in my opinion one of the best turn-based gameplay systems of any turn-based JRPG. See, Preta only has one turn, but she crits us and the icon blinks. This is called a half turn, which means she gets an additional action. So we learned that critting allows you to attack more times, finishing battles more quickly and losing less resources in the process. The devs just taught you some of the core mechanics of the press turn system without any sort of pop-up menus or tutorial boxes. They did all of this in a natural and intuitive way, which is again, genius game design. Anyhow, Preta destroys us, but thankfully there's a medic right next to her. The devs knew she was gonna give you a hard time, they designed it that way, to make you experience firsthand the brutality of Nocturne. As we proceed, there are two diverging paths and the man in the wheelchair appears again and tells us to go his way. This whole encounter with the old man teaches the player not to trust everything he said, and to think for themselves. Something vital for Nocturne. This is your adventure, and you're in a hostile world. You're challenged time and time again, and this is one of those challenges. So, of course we go the other way first, and we are rewarded for that with an item that can inflict fire damage. As we continue, a scripted battle against two Kodamas starts. Scripted battles are battles specifically designed by the devs which occur in specific places they want to, so studying them is very important because the devs can create specific challenges for the player to face. This is in opposition to the random battles that can appear anywhere and are there to test the player's overall game knowledge and resource management. Anyways, we are battling two new opponents. The odds are against us, so why not try that item we just got? And it just turns out that the Kodamas are weak to fire, giving us an extra turn and making this fight a piece of cake. See what the designers just did there? They taught us even more about the press turn system without saying a word. You now know that critting and exploiting enemy weaknesses gives you more actions. And knowing the enemy's weaknesses is a key factor in battle. If we can exploit them, we get extra turns and can win the battle more efficiently. As we explore the world of Nocturne, we will fight an assortment of new demons, experiment each battle and find out what they're weak against, giving us an eureka moment every time we do, and that's what game design is all about. When that light bulb in our head lights up, the player feels a sense of euphoria. And in Nocturne there will be hundreds of random encounters, dozens of new enemies, and as such there will be an incredible amount of experimentation and a lot of ways to tackle fights. The replayability of these games is insane, not only because of this, but also because of the amount of different demons that are in the game. You can play through Nocturne multiple times and always have a whole new party of demons. From this fight we level up again and learn a new skill from the Magatama we ingested. These skills can be magic oriented, support oriented, or strength oriented, like this one we just got. We learned a more powerful version of our basic attack at the cost of some HP. The player needs to think a lot about risk versus reward with these kinds of skills that consume HP. Would I lose more HP if I let this enemy live? Or should I spend some so he can't attack me? Questions like these are yet another reason on what makes this combat system so engaging and satisfying. We then find the old man again, and it turns out this was all just a test of our newly acquired powers. Why does this motherfucker want to test us though? You'll have to keep watching to find out. Or not, if you've already played Nocturne. Anyways, it seems we passed the test and now we can proceed and explore the rest of the hospital. It starts off right off the bat with NPCs giving us vague directions on where to go next, providing some guidance for the player. Just a little push in the right direction. As we arise to the second floor, the empty rooms when we first came here are now full of items and NPCs. Note that this is a simple, straightforward corridor, with lots of optional rooms we can explore, and each time we decide to enter one, we're rewarded. This is the way of the devs to incentivize us to search every nook and cranny we encounter. This NPC tells us we need an annex key to go through the security system at the passageway, so now our objective is to find said key. Following this path leads us straight to a cute-looking demon, a fairy named Pixie. Pixie tells us that she will join us in our quest to find the key, cause she herself also needs it to go to Yoyogi Park, the one where we met Ijiri and where the riot occurred. Pixie tells us she saw some pretas carrying the key, so looking for pretas we go. Turns out we don't have to look that much though, cause the pretas are literally in the next room over. They are talking about Magatsui, which is a mystery to us, but it does seem that demons seek it. Pixie tricks the pretas into opening the door and into battle we go. But holy shit, there are 3 of them, and before we got completely destroyed by just one. Well, here's the thing, now we have Pixie with us. Pixie knows the skill Zeo, an electric attack, and it just so happens that pretas are weak against that. How convenient, isn't it? With the extra turn we get, we can instantly kill 2 of them, and we also learn that Zeo can paralyze enemies, and that enemies that are paralyzed get critted by physical attacks. I'll say this just one more time, but it's amazing how the devs teach you the game's mechanics through your own interaction and experimentation with the game's systems. After the pretas have been dealt with, Pixie tells us that we are powerful, but that we can be even more powerful if we talk to demons and recruit them to our party. I've already explained the importance of random encounters, but I didn't mention that until now they were disabled. There were no random encounters at all. Only when the player gets the ability to recruit demons and to get stronger by doing so is when they begin to appear. And people say this game is hard. The game has been nothing but generous till now, and it will keep being like that for the majority of the playthrough. As we explore, the compass at the bottom starts to flash red, and we get into our first random encounter and we meet our second demon ally. We talk to him, but he's not gonna join us if there isn't anything in it for him. He asks us for some of our HP, not once, but twice. This demon negotiation system is genius. It makes sense that the demons who were just trying to kill us wouldn't want to join us willy-nilly. That's ludonarrative harmony right there. It's also another form of resource management. You trade some of your resources for your new friend. Plus, the game already gave us a bunch of resources in the form of items spread throughout the dungeon. This demon negotiation system though has 2 major flaws that I'll talk about later when we get to it. I posted a tweet explaining my frustrations with this part of the system, and the Nocturne community completely destroyed me. They were much more ruthless than these demons. They called me all sorts of names and questioned my intelligence. Man, fandoms can be scary. But when we get there, you guys will get my point, hopefully. The demon negotiation system has a lot of intricacies, so we will explain it as we go. For now, we have a new ally, and that means 1 more press turn. You get 1 for each member in your party. Sweet! As we pass through the annex gate, we immediately start to hear talk about a terrifying demon that's way stronger than us. We learn his name is Fornias and even get a glimpse of him, swimming through the air like he owns the place. The souls say that as long as he's around, there's no way we can get out of this hospital. And as we continue to explore, we come across demons that we can interact with, just like the souls of the departed. This shows us that not all demons are hostile, and it gives them a lot of charm and personality. These are living, breathing entities, not just some cute monsters you can shove into a ball. This demon in particular looks wise, and wise he is indeed. He gives the player a direct explanation of the press turn system, specifically about exploiting weaknesses. This is good in case some players haven't figured it out by themselves. It's always a good idea to make sure the player understands the game's systems after all. Another friendly demon shows up. He says he's never seen a demon like us before, enforcing the idea that we are special even more. The little guy even gives us a medicine. As we exit this room, we are able to see a cube in the distance. That makes us want to explore even more. And the talk about Fornius doesn't stop as we progress. The game really wants to make you afraid of him. One soul though says he saw someone sneak past through Fornius, giving us some hope. Maybe it was one of our friends. It makes sense. Since we were all at the hospital at the time of the conception, they should be in this world too. This dungeon then does something brilliant that another game did and is praised to no end for it, and this little game here did it years early. I'm talking about the iconic return to the Firelink Shrine in Dark Souls. As we proceed deeper and deeper into the hospital, we come across a locked door, and when we open it, we find ourselves at the very beginning of where our journey started, next to Ijiri and the doctor, which is super convenient because at this point in our adventure we are running low on HP and MP, and also because we have been exploring this dangerous place for a while. It gives the player some much needed reprieve and loops us back around to a familiar place, just like Dark Souls did. Now we can delve into the deepest parts of the annex. And there we find a room full of souls that give us a deeper explanation on the demon negotiation system. They tell us to eliminate all other demons before talking to the one we want to recruit because the others can disrupt conversations. And that there are actually some races of demons that won't join us through negotiation no matter what. Actually, we already saw that happening with Will-O-Wisps and Pretas. If you try to talk to them, they will just spout some gibberish and attack you. They do end up joining our party, but it's of their own free will. These demons seem more deranged and less intelligent than the others, but still, if we give them what they ask for, they will join our party. We also end up recruiting another 2 demons, a Shikigami and a Huapo. We now have a total of 6 demons in our party. In the deepest depths of the annex, we find a ladder, and look at this place. It's such a calm and serene scene, contrasting the dark corridors we've been wandering around so far. And this is the place where we saw the items before, and there's actually 3 of them. What a genius game design decision! Rewarding the player immensely with 3 powerful multi-hit elemental items and with a beautiful place. We're finally here though. We get another message saying that there is a strong presence behind the door. And also there's a healer and a save point right next to it. So, we're about to meet face to face with Fornius. To sum up some things that happened while we were exploring. We got the super useful Analyze skill that lets us instantly see a demon's weakness, stats, and moves, which makes the game way easier for us. We recruited and leveled up 6 demons, we found a bunch of resources, and we learned more about this world and the gameplay system. So, these 6 demons are the tools we have to beat Fornius. We can choose the ones we like the most, the ones who are more leveled up, the ones we find most useful, anything really. Since there's a save right next to Fornius, even if we lose, we can change our strategy right away and try a new approach. The battle starts, and luckily for us, we find out his weakness right away. It's electric, which is a huge weakness for him to have because of the chance of paralysis. If this happens, we can crit him a lot of times in a row, and with each crit, it means 1 more action for us. I find it kind of funny that they made Fornius with 2 Zeo, because that's the skill Pixie has. It makes it so we grow even more attached to her. Pixie is a really special demon in Nocturne. Also, it's good we find out his weakness so early, because Analyze doesn't work on bosses. With them, the game expects you to experiment with all you have, and figure things out for yourself. Our girl Pixie also lowers his defense, which is vital in this game because bosses have a lot of HP. You can decrease or increase status effects up to 4 times. This is vital in Nocturne and something that we will be using throughout the entire playthrough. We just keep beating him so bad that he has no chance. He does have a desperation move when he's low on HP that hits all of our allies, but it doesn't do much. I have to say that this fight is very underwhelming, unfortunately. For how much the game hyped them up, and for the reputation that Nocturne has, this boss was a complete joke. I even tried to fight him with only demons that are weak against his ice magic, without using the Demi-Fiend, and only using auto attacks, and I still beat him. I tried to lose a lot, and I couldn't. In this aspect, Digital Devil Saga had a much better first boss fight, one that actually teaches the player more about the game. If you wanna see my preview of that game, again, link is right up there. Well, Fornias is dead and we gain a second Magatama. This one is ice magic oriented and we will be equipping it right away as this is a magic build we're doing. The game then gives us some medicine and a revival item in case we want to keep going onwards instead of going back up to heal. Funnily enough, for the players who do go back, they're rewarded with cash, or Maka as it's called in Nocturne, because the guy bet all his money we couldn't beat Fornias. Lol, worst bet in history. As we leave the hospital, we get a view of what has become of Tokyo, and we are immediately greeted by the dynamic duo. The old lady says something very odd, that we didn't disappoint her master. Just what hopes does this child have for us? She then points up to the heavens above. Tokyo is now a spherical world. It's like we're living inside a tiny planet, and there's stuff surrounding us from all sides, making the player feel even more trapped in this world. Then, out of nowhere, Raido Kusunoa shows up. It seems he and Goto are pursuing us, but they decide not to make themselves shown for now. So, we're out now in the open, and we control this little avatar. Very cute. This is the overworld, and it's a staple in a lot of Megaten games. Here we can go from place to place, and right now we're headed to Yoyogi Park. The way to get there is very straightforward. There's not many branching paths, and the corruption surrounding us is not just for show. It also helps to limit the play area so we don't get lost. As we explore, we find two very cool NPCs. One tells us that the guy with a super strong will reshape this chaotic world into a new one. Thank you for helping me prove my point, my dude. And then we find none other than this guy.
Called it, I did. Knew it before it even happened. The world being as round as a tumbleweed, it don't surprise me one bit. But even now, people still don't believe me. What if I were to tell ya, this old noggin of mine can tune in the broadcast from Jupiter? That pique your interest? According to legend, a demi-fiend of some kind is supposed to rise up and recreate the world. Wait a sec. You couldn't be. Nah.
So yeah, the guy from the beginning, that NPC you told us the world was gonna be round, but not like it's usually, was totally right. The Vortex world is kinda like a snow globe, and you're inside it. Sadly, probably because of limitations, the devs couldn't implement this idea all that well. It would be very cool if you could actually see all of the destruction and vortex and everything and the chaos and the buildings, like when you look up and stuff like that. But that doesn't usually happen. You can see it from time to time, but I think they could have emphasized this a bit more. Still, that man was totally right. So lesson learned here, don't judge other people just because their ideas are different from yours. They could turn out to be right. After the talks, we reach a familiar place, Yoyogi Park, and we now have to say goodbye to our friend Pixie. Or do we?
Yay, we're finally here. I guess this is goodbye? We made it to Yoyogi Park, so I guess we can part ways now. Or do I get the sense you want us to stay together? I like the way that sounds. Alrighty, I guess I'll stay with you a little longer.
Okay, so now that we're in Yoyogi Park, what should we... Holy shit! Look at that big dick motherfucker!
The lady at the fountain's pretty hot. You went into her before? Then hurry up and go to the fountain of life up ahead. You'll see what I mean.
We do as he says and go meet this lady of the fountain, which turns out is extremely helpful. She fully heals our team just in time since we were running low on health from all the random encounters in the overworld, but she does this, as everything in Nocturne, for a price. Thankfully, by defeating said random encounters, we do have a lot of mecha to pay here. Now that we're healed up, there's two more things of notice here. First is the fact that we learned that the other side of Yoyogi Park is occupied by a bunch of fairies. This is a great way to mark this place even more in the player's mind. We already know because of the intro that we can enter from the other side, so it's fair to expect we're gonna be coming back there. The other thing of notice is an NPC that tells us that she saw a human girl go to Shibuya, so now we know where our next destination is. Up to Shibuya to hopefully meet our friend. We then arrive at Shibuya, the city of the free and the place where Nocturne starts to show its true colors. We are greeted by an NPC who says that there are two underground districts here, one with shops and one with a dance club. We go to the one closest to us and it's indeed the one with shops. This right here is the traditional town of RPGs, a safe place full of shops and stops where you can heal and prepare for your adventure. Here we have a save point, the Lady of the Fountain, a shop with this cute-ass demon who you might have seen before since he serves as the mascot of Atlas, the one and only Jack Frost, who tells us he wants to sell stuff to get more powerful. This little dude also sells Magatamas, which is awesome since it provides the player a direct power-up. And last but not least, we have the Cathedral of Shadows. Place here is what makes Shin Megami Tensei really stand out from other monster taming JRPGs. In Megaten, you're not supposed to keep your demons around. You are meant to fuse them together to create newer, more powerful demons. This system is brilliant. Not only does it make the player feel less safe since they're not keeping their favorite familiar demons around throughout the whole journey, it also offers a whole nother level of strategy and experimentation. When you fuse two demons together, their moves are passed down to the newer demon. This means that you can pick up and choose which skills you want to pass around and gives you the freedom to create a super powerful, fully customizable team. You can pass strength skills to a demon with a high strength stat, make a magic nuke demon with all the elemental skills for a super versatile fighter, create a supporter demon that has buffs and can heal your team, or you can just create an all-rounder demon. This system requires a lot of thinking ahead and planning. You have to make sure you have all the skills you need passed down. If you don't think carefully, you might lose some skills you previously had since you didn't pass them along. New demons also learn new and more powerful skills for themselves, so it's always a good idea to fuse as much as possible. This is the other way you get more powerful in this game. One thing they improved in future Megaten games was the ability to fuse demons everywhere, like in SMT4. Next video coming out is SMT4, so if you're interested in that, you already know what to do. This is a huge improvement because it allows for more variety in the gameplay. With this, you're not only fighting random encounters and exploring dungeons, you also have this change in pace and mindset whenever you want. A whole new fun system to mess around with and get eureka moments. It was a great addition indeed, but here in Nocturne we can only fuse in the Cathedral of Shadows. Overall, this underground section is amazing. It gives us a chance to recover and save, gave us two huge boosts in power in the form of the Magatamas and the new demons, and is overall a great place for the player to chill out and feel safe. So yeah, in Nocturne, not even the safe hubs are safe. You are in the Vortex world after all, this is the chaotic place full of demons. No wonder they would be here too, and I love this. Not many games have the balls to put random encounters in these sorts of places. This only makes the player more vulnerable and in a constant state of fight or flight. Now that we're healed up and got ourselves some new demons, it's time to head to the other underground. And as we do, we spot a freaking treasure chest in the distance. But just like the 3 cubes we saw at the hospital, we can't reach it right now. Going down the second underground, we are welcomed by yet another NPC, and this one tells us... Dude, this shit's amazing. We just got attacked by a soul of the departed. This is Nocturne showing his true colors yet again. We're never safe, not even when talking to NPCs. This makes the player feel paranoid for the rest of the playthrough. Imagine you're low on health and want to talk to an NPC. Better heal up, right? What if he attacks us? This is yet again another genius game design decision that the devs implemented by simply taking away yet another safe space from the player. This battle is a piece of cake, but that's not what it is here to do. It's here to show you that challenges are everywhere in life, even in the places where you least expect them. We keep exploring this place and sure enough we reach the mystical chest, and oh boy! You get shit! Now I have mixed feelings about these chests. On one side, I find it kind of funny that they don't give anything special. I think this is the devs saying that we won't be rewarded in life all the time. There's an NPC that tells us that there's a trick to opening these chests. The player has to find it all by themselves. It's not obvious what the trick is, and it may take a lot of trying to open chests to get a good reward, but that's also a way of the devs telling us that we have to work to get good shit. Now here's the problem though. The way to opening these chests is by doing so in a full Kagutsushi, and well, that's a big problem. In theory, yes, you have to work to get things in life, but in practice this chest just results in this. In theory it's good, in practice it's an egregious design decision. It's tedious, time-consuming, and in most cases not worth it. Continuing on our underground exploration though, we start hearing club music, and when we open the door we meet Chiaki! Our friend! She's safe! This is a huge moment for the player. You're no longer alone in this world of demons. You found a trace of humanity, someone who you can rely upon, someone who can help you take this cruel world head on. Someone... and she's gone? What the fuck, Chiaki? I'm your friend! And the demi fiend at that. You're just a normal human. Where the fuck are you gonna go? Why did you leave us? Well, this is just Nocturne being Nocturne. The game wants you to feel alone. It's not like other JRPGs where you and your buddies go save the world. Chiaki here has her own role to play. So, we are aimless right now, but thankfully a new demon pops up in the plaza above and he tells us that he saw a man at the safe terminal, and it turns out it's our boy Ijiri. Ijiri will be a key pillar in our adventure from now on. He offers the player a lot of explanations on the world and guides us to our next objective. Here he tells us that these terminals are all connected by the Amala network and that we can use them to travel from place to place. Our goal now is to reach Ginza, cause Ijiri heard there's a group there who wants to change the world. And that group is led by a human, who's probably Ikawa. Ijiri says we should meet him cause he's the most vital source of information we might have right now. So, up to Ginza we go! Unfortunately, we get stuck on the Amala network, and this will be the second dungeon of the game. Already, this dungeon sets itself apart from the first. Since we're stuck here, there's no way for us to resupply or to fuse new demons. So if you didn't come prepared, you're kinda fucked. Thankfully, we got some strong demons with us. Our Pixie evolved into a High Pixie and learned an amazing wind spell that hits all enemies. We also got our very own Jack Frost, who has multi-hit ice attacks and a passive skill that will be very useful later on. Anyhowzers, the first thing you'll find in this dungeon is an NPC that tells you to use your map or else you'll get lost, and that's precisely the main thing this dungeon does. It teaches you to use the map, which is vital in Nocturne. Dungeons will only get bigger and bigger from now on. This dungeon is amazing in that regard. It is composed of diverging paths where some of them teleport you back to the beginning. By using your map, you can easily see which way is the correct one, and that's why I think this dungeon is so great. It really hammers in the player how vital the map is. Overall though, this is another fairly simple dungeon, which is appropriate for this time in the game. The random encounters can be tough though. Here you can only really use the demons you brought, cause the ones here aren't recruitable. This, combined with the dungeon's narrow corridors, really make you feel like you're trapped. Another thing of notice here is this room, where the game shows you 3 items. As always, you have to explore thoroughly to get them, but when you do, you find out this room has 4 items, not 3. We collect our booty and it's a trap! Not even the treasures are safe now. The game really wants you to be on your toes at all times, which is awesome. I also really like how the game makes it as things look too good to be true, and they are, just like in real life. Get-rich-quick scams on mobile come to mind. Those have been rampant where I live, and I see so many people falling for them. My mom included, lol. She got scammed out of 1,000 fucking maca. Getting back to Nocturne though, the only thing left to talk about in this dungeon is the boss fight, and it's definitely a step up from Forneus. Dude's name is Spectre, and when the battle starts he divides himself into 6 little himselves. In this fight I was quite prepared. These specters aren't much, but when they join up they can be a menace, especially if you didn't kill any of the little ones. Look at the difference in stats. So yeah, we get our ass beaten for the first time and see our body as angels take us to someplace else. But here, Nocturne does another genius thing. See, the devs don't want you to get decentivized and stop playing when you die, so what they did was put another intro type sequence when that happens, and this time the intro comes with some exciting music and showcases some of the best moments in the game. So with renewed spirit and a new strategy we attempt the fight one more time. See, this fight here is to teach you to use multi-hit moves. You should have some by now, like the aforementioned Wing Buffet from Pixie and Mabufu from Jack Frost, along with your own Ice Breath skill we learned from the Magatama Forneus drop. We also entered this fight during a new Kagutsushi, because Jack Frost has the Dark Might skill, which is a passive skill that allows his attacks to crit in the full Kagutsushi, giving us an extra turn. We start by lowering all of the Spectre's defenses, which is huge value, and then with a barrage of Ice Breath, Wing Buffet and Mabufu, we can easily take most of the Spectres down. Killing one of the Spectres makes the conjoined Spectre much weaker, and the rest of the fight is a cakewalk. And with that done, we're free! Time to head off this cramped place and into the open world. Thing is, we ended up in an even creepier place. Nocturne doesn't let out with the oppressive atmosphere. Here we meet the dynamic duo, and the lady in black tells us 2 very important things. The first one is that this place is called the Amala Labyrinth, and if you collect menorahs and venture the labyrinth, she will tell us more about this world. The second thing she tells us is that this is a place for those cast down from heaven. Cast down from heaven, huh? That is a huge clue for the identity of these two. If you know anything about religion, you can pretty much already piece out who the old man is. Anyways, we finally arrive in Ginza, and in this place we learn that the group Ikawa supposedly leads is called a Nihilo, and that they strive to create a world of stillness. More details on that later. We also learn from the bar owner, Nyx, that the Nihilo have a base nearby, so we head there. Unfortunately, the base is being guarded by a powerful demon, so we can't enter it. Going back to Nyx for more information, she tells us that there's a demon called Gozuteno that opposes the Nihilo, so we should go and meet him. We can reach him by going through the Great Underpass of Ginza, the 3rd dungeon of this game, which is located right next to the Nihilo base in a place no player can miss. Thing is, there are some optional paths here in the overworld we can explore. The first one rewards us with an item. At the entrance of the second path though, an NPC tells us that the road ahead is full of powerful demons, and oh boy, he wasn't lying. This is a challenging long path in which we face a lot of strong enemies, but at the end of it, we're met with a reward. Which makes sense. The game has been teaching you from the beginning that exploration is rewarded with items and such. And here, beside what looks like to be Tokyo Tower, we find just that, our sweet reward. And as we open it, we're met with a succubus, not a reward. In fact, there's absolutely nothing in this branching path. Yes, most times our efforts are rewarded, sometimes life can be a bitch. Now that we're done with the overworld stuff, we finally head to the Great Underpass of Ginza, which is in essence a sewer system. In this dungeon, we will have to use everything we've learned so far to progress. There's a lot of optional paths, this time even vertical ones, but this dungeon does something with one of the staples of game design to guide the player. See that door in the distance with the red light above it? Yep, that's the correct way to go. Humans are naturally attracted to light, just like moths, and so game designers use light in order to guide the player. And talking about humans, we find 2 more humans down here in the sewer. Wait, what? I thought the ones who were at the hospital were the only ones left. This is a huge win for the player. Finding humanity in such an inhumane world gives the player comfort and hope. Hey dudes, what up? Hey, run away. Right, we don't really look human now, do we? The fact that the game keeps treating the player as a demon is yet another genius game design decision. Even when you thought you found some solace, that is immediately taken away from you. But just as quickly as it was taken away, the game gives it back. Up ahead we find their village, which doesn't look much like a village, but hey, dudes gotta survive, am I right? And we actually learn pretty quickly why they live here. We settle things with their village elder and he explains that they are not humans, they're mannequins. Get it? Mannequins. These dudes are here in the sewers cause they just escaped from Mantra. The village head tells us that mannequins are tortured to death by the Mantra and that only a small fraction of them could escape to the sewers. He says that they are so weak that their destiny is to be slaves to the Mantra. And we learn from a mannequin that the name of the leader of the Mantra is Gozutano. Wait, hold up. Isn't Gozutano the one Nix told us to look for help with dealing with the Nihilo? So we're supposed to get help from some motherfuckers who torture and exploit the weak? That don't sit right with me. Game doesn't care about me. We simply have to keep going. We get stopped by a mannequin that says blah 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 blah, you can't progress. Sucks to be you. Well, what now? Well. If you talk to every NPC in the sewers, they do mention a collector mannequin, and if you talk to him, he says that he can help you out if you're in a jam. Well, looks like we have a job for you, Mr. Collector, sir. He says he'll help, but not for free. Tells us he wants a super rare item. A bill. Really? A bill? Well, I guess in the post-apocalyptic world, money is rare, so okay. He then tells us that bills are found in places with a lot of people. I've been singing the praises of Nocturne for what, an hour now? But this game also has a lot of bullshit. Haha! 2003 game is not perfect. Who would have guessed? Yes, the only clue you have is that bills are in places with a lot of people. Now fuck off. There are absolutely no more hints. Not one. Well, we can go to Shibuya. That's a good idea, if you wanna waste a shit ton of time, cause it ain't there. Well, only other populated place is Ginza. Maybe the NPCs will have some more hints for us. Nope, fuck right off, we want you to suffer, you see, that's genius game design. Not. This is actually, in my opinion, the first atrocious game design decision in Nocturne. Here's the solution. If you explored everything, the only thing that was unavailable was Loki's room, back in Nyx's bar. Thing is, you can enter through the back. Thing is, if you tried entering through the back before, it would just say it was locked. Okay, so it's locked. Time to erase that place from my mind. Well, the designers thought it was a good idea for the door to be unlocked now, and that's where you will find the bill. Hooray! Imagine not having a guide, my party people. We go there and we fuck a troll up on our way out and head back to the collector, who writes a letter telling the guard to let us pass through, pretty please. Turns out all this guard needed was a letter. The pen is indeed mightier than the sword. Okay, time to continue exploring this dungeon. Welcome everyone to Nocturne's very first skill check boss, the infamous Matador! This Skelly boy is the source of a shit ton of discourse on the internet for more than 20 years now. People across different generations all have a bone to pick with him. Just noticed the pun while rereading the script, that was a nice one, lol. And to those people who took time off their lives to go up to the internet and vent their frustrations about this boss fight in the forums, to them I tell you, get good. As I've said, Matador is a skill check boss, but what do we skill check bosses, Joseph? Well, let's put it in the simplest terms possible. In game design, you have to teach the player how to play the game. Let's look at Cuphead as an example for no particular reason whatsoever. None at all. The game teaches you how to jump and then puts an obstacle in front of you. Why is this though? Well, it's because for the player to succeed in this game, they need to understand and be able to jump to get over obstacles. But what if you want to create situations that require a lot more knowledge and skill from the player? You first have to make sure that they know and are capable of doing the things that are necessary to progress through said challenges. And that's what skill check bosses do. They make sure that if you can defeat them, you can pretty much progress through the rest of the challenges the designers present to you. Fire Gascoigne in Bloodborne is a good example. If you can't beat him, you just have no chance with the rest of the game, so why bother letting the player advance if they don't know the basics? Matador is, in my opinion, even better than Gascoigne. Well, not better, but he teaches the player what they need to do more literally, so he's a better teacher. Matador starts the fight by using Red Capote, which raises his evasion to the max. If you've been paying attention, I've already said that buffs and debuffs are essential in Nocturne, but till now they haven't been really useful, now have they? Let's see how useful they can be. Stats can be elevated or de-elevated up to 4 times. And Red Capote raises evasion by 4. Let's see what this means in practical terms. Yep, you have like 0.00000000000000001 chance of beating him by just raw dogging him. The game is telling you as literally as it can with Red Capote that you need to use buffs and debuffs or else you won't survive in this world anymore. Not only that, he also has the attack taunt, which is a genius game design. It lowers your defenses by 2 levels, yes, but it also raises your attack by 2, so keep an eye on your defenses, buddy. You could also try and lower his accuracy a ton, or his attack. You can even lower his defense if you're feeling cocky. Thing is, Matador comes prepared for that. He knows the skill the Kunda that removes all his debuffs. As you can plainly see by now, this is a battle of buffing and debuffing. But how are you gonna get the actions to do all that? Well, Matador, as the great sensei he is, only knows physical moves and a wind move. Turns out that just before this fight, there's a vendor in the mannequin village that sells you a Megatama that blocks wind attacks. If you equip it, that means every single time Matador uses Mazan, not only will your character not take any damage, Matador will also lose the rest of his press turns, giving the player a significant advantage in sheer actions allowed. So let's say you've raised your own evasion and blocked some wind attacks. In the meanwhile, you've been hitting him and lowering his health little by little. You got this, fam, just keep doing what you're doing and you'll be gold. Yeah, remember I said Fornia's had a desperation move when he was low on health? Well, Mr. Matador has one too, but unlike Fornia's, his hits like a truck. But this teaches you another vital thing: buff your defenses and lower his attack, or else no bueno, try again. But Andalusia is made to be defended against. What? How? Why? Matador warns you before making his desperation move. This is called a tell. By using his skill Focus, it does double his attack power, but it also pretty much tells you he'll use Andalusia the next turn, so you can prepare accordingly. And here's where one of the best parts of Megaten comes in. Chances are your demons don't have all the moves necessary to beat Matador, so what do? You build a team specifically to beat his ass. Be sure to grab defense and evasion boosting skills, attack lowering ones, get some demons who are not weak to wind, and a healer. The game actually throws you some very powerful demons to help you in this fight. You have Amenouzume, who not only resists wind but also has Medea to heal the whole party, Nozuichi and Nekomata, who drain wind, Kopatango, who nulls wind, and Tsudama, which resists wind and comes with Tsukukaja. And ta-da! Matador is dead. You may now progress. Building a team is just as much a part of strategizing as the battles are. It's a gameplay system that fits directly into another one, and the synergy these two systems have is what makes these games so much fun. You go from being completely wrecked to destroying your opponent. No questions asked. And this is done through information gathering and learning from your mistakes. Two of the greatest weapons as human beings have. Nocturne teaching life lessons since 2003, baby. The first big roadblock is done, and from here the rest of the dungeon is smooth sailing. Just explore at your leisure, find some items and follow the lights to progress, and bam! you reach the stairs that lead to the exit. Oh, the light of day, so good, so refreshing. Wait, what? Yep, it's a pile of dead mannequins. A huge pile of dead mannequins. Show don't tell, am I right, folks? Leaving this behind, we find an NPC on the overworld who warns us that the mantra demons are feisty and that they may attack you on sight. Yeah, mate, we already know that demons can attack on sight. Moving on. We reach our destination, Ikebukuro, City of the Mantra, and the place where we can find Gozu Tenno. Thankfully, this sub has all the facilities we need to replenish after that long journey all the way from Matador through here. As always though, it isn't cozy vibes that welcome us. These mantra demons have a core philosophy: strength above all else. They believe that only the strong should rule and that those who have power can do anything they want. And as such, they use that power to drain the Magatsui from mannequins, in turn gaining even more power. Might makes right. These guys can do whatever they want because no one is strong enough to oppose them. I wonder what role the player will have here. So after talking to a bunch of scumbags, we reach this colossal tower. At its entrance, we find none other than our number 2 dripped out man, Izumu. Things don't stay hopeful for long though. None other than Thor, the almighty god of lightning, shows up. He proceeds to whack the shit out of Izumu and imprisoning us in a beautifully directed scene. The cutscene director is Ishiro Itano, and from working on Nocturne he must have learned a lot, cause in the follow-up game, Reach the Level Saga, he absolutely demolishes it with perfect direction. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see a retrospective on one of the best games ever. Things are heating up. What's gonna happen to Demi-Fiend and Izumu? Sorry, but you'll have to wait a bit till we get there. Why? Well, since we killed Matador, we are now in the possession of a menorah, so delving into the labyrinth of Amala seems like the next logical step. This is one of my favorite places in the entire game. This is part of the extra content that was released for Nocturne, and as such, it has some of its best content, since the devs allowed the experience they gained from designing Nocturne. This dungeon has a heavy emphasis on puzzles. You haven't seen them in the main story yet, but they are an integral part of Nocturne. They are so essential that Digital Level Saga's dungeons all have puzzles in them, so the devs definitely learned that they are a good inclusion. But why is that? Well, so far we've been only exploring and battling. Puzzles give the player something to keep their attention on while exploring, a goal to always have in the back of your mind, and a challenge to overcome. Most of the happy brain hormones the player was getting were from being rewarded with items, and finding the ideal way to finish battles, but now we have puzzles to take into consideration. They can give the player a huge eureka moment when they're solved, and are a great source of happiness juice. So the first floor of the Labyrinth of Amala, called the Kalpa, has everything that makes a dungeon great. First off, it's challenging. There are no save points in there, so you have to finish the whole thing in one sitting. Then it has a lot of strong enemies. It's huge, with a lot of items to find, and it comes with our very first puzzle. When navigating this room, you'll most certainly find yourself dropping down to the floor below, right into a pit of red mist that damages you. There's a spirit there that tells us that the trick to proceed in the room above is to look at the ceiling, and sure enough, when you look there, you'll find panels at the top. Some lit up, and some dark. So here's your puzzle. Find a way to get to the other side without touching the dark squares. This is a navigational puzzle. You have to dominate the layout of the dungeon because there's multiple entrances to this room, and therefore multiple possible paths to complete the puzzle. A few more things of note here, things that kinda fuck the player over. Here's Kamala. She's a friendly demon that can give you insights on the location of the next fiends. Why does this fuck the player exactly? It's cause the whole fiend encounter system is just ludicrous. Unlike Matador, who's placed directly in the player's main path, the other fiends appear in completely random places. Some of the late game ones even appear in the very first area of the game. Why? Really? Why? Who thought this was a good good idea. I literally see zero reasons to design them this way. Instead of putting the fiends in the player's path at appropriate locations to create a good challenge, some of the fiends' placements are just completely missable. Imagine if you never found Kamala or forgot she exists. Well, because of that cardinal sin, you shall be punished by never, ever finding the fiends. The other thing that kinda fucks the player over are these two spirits. You're finally near the exit of the dungeon, though the player doesn't know it. These two offer to heal you for the cheap price of 500 mecha, and they do heal you. After all the things you have challenged, you're probably pretty low on HP and MP. So this is a huge win. Thing is, they teleport you back to the beginning of the dungeon. Why did you do this exactly? Anyhow, we finished the first Kalpa, and our reward is some dope exposition from the Lady in Black. She tells us about the role of Kagutsushi. Kagutsushi, the ball shining in the middle of the Vortex world, will bestow power to the one with a reason to recreate this world. We still don't know what a reason is, but we do know it's important since the word is capitalized. Last time we heard about a reason was when we first entered this world and Kagutsushi talked to us. We also learned that this cycle of death and rebirth of a world is the norm in this universe, the Amala multiverse. The dynamic duo has traveled through billions of worlds and have experienced this cycle an infinite number of times. Why though? Keep watching if you wanna know. Back to the main story now. We are in a prison cell and the only way to get out is to face a trial. This trial is dope though. As a reflection of the mantra's philosophy, this will be a trial by combat, and if you can prove you're strong enough, you can leave. On our way to the trial, we can bribe Anoni for some information on the battles. He pretty much tells us the opponent's attacks and weaknesses, lol. We start the gauntlet and finish our first two opponents with ease. And our final challenger is Thor himself. Thor has a good arsenal of skills. He only has electric attacks, but those pack a lot of damage. You don't have any electric blocking Magatamas, so be sure to bring a demon that blocks it. Thor also has the Kaja like Matador to remove his debuffs, but it comes with another powerful skill, the Kunda. This skill can remove your own buffs. And on top of all that, Thor can heal himself. On paper, this is a super challenging boss, but on practice, let's just say Thor doesn't have enough of HP to create an engaging battle of attrition like Matador did. Just debuff him a little, buff yourself a little, so he won't remove the buffs and debuffs, and hammer him down. It's no big deal really. After that, Thor acknowledges our strength and lets us go. We head straight to the tower again. After all, our goal all along was to talk to Gozo Tenno so he could help us deal with the Nihilo. But as we start to enter the tower, it seems like a demon is spying on us. From behind, our pursuers show themselves. It is finally time for our showdown against Raido Kuzunoa the 14th. Raido here is a very fun fight. Dude hits like a truck. He doesn't have any elemental attacks, but he can inflict confusion on you. And he has a high chance to crit, dealing tons of damage and giving him even more room to attack. Thing is, although he can remove his debuffs, he can't remove your buffs. Just pump that defense all the way to 4 and you're golden. Raido will respond to this by lowering your defense by 2 stages, but also raising your attack by 2. So in no time you'll be at +4 defense and +4 attack. This fight can catch you by surprise, pun not intended, cause, you know, he surprised us. But you'll eventually learn how to beat him. Now it's time to enter this colossal tower, the Mantra headquarters, and explore the 4th dungeon of the game. And with all the potential it has, it does not disappoint. Sorry, I was lying. It does disappoint. Big time. This huge structure is divided in less than 10 explorable rooms for some reason, and none of them are really all that interesting. First off, we head to the underground to find Izumu, who tells us that our teacher is with Ikawa and that the Mantra are planning an all-out attack against the Nihilo. This gives the player a sense of urgency and creates a clash of goals. We wanted to infiltrate the Nihilo and find Ikawa for some answers, but if the mantra completely destroys them, Takao will be caught in the crossfire. Now, with the higher stakes, it would be fun to rush through this tower and try to ascend it as fast as possible in order to prevent the full-on attack on the Nihilo. It would have made for a very interesting dungeon, especially because of its unparalleled verticality. The third dungeon, the Great Underpass of Ginza, introduced a tiny bit of verticality, so the logical next step in terms of game design would be to implement on said verticality. But no, the only thing this dungeon here has to offer is an elevator that takes you all the way to the top of the tower. Talk about wasted potential. We hurry up to Gozu Tenno by just riding an elevator. We get there, and in another brilliant cutscene, we finally meet Gozu Tenno, and in a huge plot twist, the guy's a mannequin! Just kidding, he's the big statue that's behind the mannequin. We talk to Gozu Tenno and he recognizes our strength as a demi-fiend and rewards us with 2 extra demon slots for our party. Thanks, dude. And he also makes a very compelling proposition. Do we want to serve him and join the mantra? We've seen just how powerful they are, so joining might grant us even greater strength. How you answer this question actually can affect which ending of the game you get. I don't like them though, so I promptly reject it. Torturing and exploiting people is not really my thing. He then tells us that he already launched the attack on the Nihilo. It seems we were powerless to do anything here, so for now we rush to the Nihilo base. And as we get there, things are pretty bad. The designers show us that the place has already been ransacked by having a lot of mantra demons there and by having the item cubes all be empty. The mantra demons celebrate their victory over the Nihilo, but maybe things aren't as they seem. We meet up with our boy Ijiri, who tells us that this may have all been foreseen by Ikawa. You see, what the mantra did was destroy the core of the Nihilo base. This core was used to gather Magatsui, but Ijiri says that upon further inspection, the core was nothing but a decoy. He then suggests that we explore further into the Nihilo base, and sure enough, we learn by eavesdropping on 2 Nihilo demons that it was all a trap. The mantra demons only destroyed the decoy. Welcome everyone to our next dungeon, the Nihilo base. This dungeon here is great. It's the biggest one out of the ones we've explored so far, has the most mini-bosses, finally introduces puzzles, and at the end of it we hope to meet face to face with the man himself, Ikawa. Let's start from the beginning. We need 4 items in order to progress. They will be scattered throughout different floors of the dungeon. In each floor you will fight a mini-boss, and these introduce a brand new fighting style. They, just like the player, command other demons. These demons are usually supporters that can debuff and cause status effects on the party. Between floors you'll have to solve a puzzle. Quite simple, the first one is just press the switches and the path forward reveals itself. This is here to teach the player how the puzzle works. As we go deeper and deeper, each floor is harder than the previous one. The map gets bigger, the bosses get stronger, and the puzzles grow more complex. We learn throughout our journey that Takao wants to create a world of stillness, a world with no feelings, no pain, no time, just oblivion. Forever. Basically, he wants everyone to be turned into a rock. After collecting the 4 MacGuffins, we reach the real core of the Nihilo, and there we meet the man who brought forth the conception. He very kindly gives us a lot of exposition. He tells us the real purpose of Magatsui. See, for someone to create a new world, they need 2 things. First is an idea of what the shape of the new world will be, and a strong conviction for that. A reason. Second is enough Magatsui to summon a god of creation to assist in the creation of this new world. Finally, we get some answers after all this time wondering about the Vortex world. We now know exactly what Ikawa wants to do. He brought forth the conception in order to create a new world. Here's the thing though. Ikawa gathered a lot of Magatsui, and with it, he also created the Nightmare System. What is the Nightmare System, you may ask? Take a look. Ikawa completely obliterated the mantra. All of those mighty, powerful demons gone, without a trace. The only thing standing in his way now is us, and to deal with that, he summons Oze, one of the most iconic and beloved demons. Even though he's just a cheetah with 2 swords. And no wonder he trusted Oze to dispose of us. This fight ain't easy. Jose is a physical beast. He comes with the attack Heat Wave that hits all of our party members and has a high chance of critting. And on top of that, he also has Focus, a move which increases the damage of his next physical attack. This already makes him super dangerous, but on top of that he also has Tsukukage, which makes it so his AoE physical attack doesn't miss often. This makes Jose a very high threat. Not only can he dish out a ton of damage to your party, he can also get a lot of extra turns by critting you and evade your attacks. Ozo also comes with the Kunda and the Kaja, making him even more threatening. This skill set makes the player have to plan his strategy very carefully, and while you're planning your next turn, Oze can also erect barriers that negate physical or magical attacks, potentially disrupting your whole strategy. Imagine that you lower these defenses and raise your attack and are now planning to deal some burst damage. Jose can counter all that preparation with a simple move. All of this makes him one of the most fair and challenging bosses in Nocturne. He is no challenge for the Demi-Fiend though. We promptly dispatch him. With nowhere left to go, we run on over to the Mantra's base, and there we meet another fiend, Isojo. This boss is unique, just like Matador, but in a different way. Matador was a skill check boss, while Isojo is a stat check boss, meaning that no matter how good your strategy for him may be, if you are not leveled up enough, you just can't beat him. This is because of his signature move, Meditation, which drains your HP and MP. If you are not strong enough, this results in Isojo just out-damaging you. No matter how hard you hit him, he can always recover more HP than the damage you deal to him. Not only that, he can also fully restore his HP to the max with his prayer skill once per fight. This is a battle of attrition, to see who can survive the longest. This means that the longer you stay in battle, the higher the chance that Isojo will win. But there are strategies you can employ to have a better chance at winning. First off, unlike the bosses we've been fighting, Isojo doesn't have any way to control buffs and debuffs, meaning you can pretty much just buff your attack to the max and lower his defense to the minimum and deal tons of damage. Secondly, all of Isojo's attacks, except Meditation, hit your whole team. You may think this is a bad thing, but actually what it means is that if you have demons that block his attacks, you'll always make Isojo lose his turns, which favors you greatly in this battle of attrition. This is overall another great fight. It makes it so the player has to be familiar with his unique moveset and strategize accordingly. Though there is some major bullshit in terms of game design, not only in this fight, but the whole game. It seems like a good time to talk about it. I'm of course referring to the Mudo and Hama skills. These skills are like dark and holy type, but they don't just deal damage. They have a fairly high chance to insta-kill any member of your team. So unless you can block it, you always have a chance of getting a game over at any point. This is extremely infuriating as you can't block both Amma and Mudo at the same time, and as such, you can be just exploring a huge dungeon and all of a sudden a random demon appears that can insta-kill you and make you waste hours of gameplay. This is just infuriatingly bad design. Thankfully, the designers improved this in later games. The way they did it is that these moves can only insta-kill you if you're weak to them, so if you run around with a dark or holy weakness, if you die, that's on you, not up to random chance. Getting back on track, at Ikebukuro we find none other than Chiaki, and she has some very insightful things to say, so listen up.
It's true that I lost everything. It was the saddest thing imaginable. But I survived the conception. I was chosen to be here. That's what I believe. And that's how I'm going to carry myself. Even though a part of me is still grieving, I know that if I bear the pain, I can open up a world of limitless potential.
So yeah, this corroborates my whole point that this game is about facing adversities, that the world is a hard and unforgiving place, that you must suffer, but nonetheless, you have what it takes to survive, to thrive, and create your own world. This would make Chiaki one of my favorite characters if this was the only thing she said. Unfortunately, she also says a lot of just listen up.
This world was full of waste, clogging up our thoughts and choking out any real progress. From an overabundance of things to an excess of people. We ran out of useful things to make and meaningful things to do. All we did was kill time. What the world really needed, it just wasn't getting. In my eyes, the world has no more room for anything superfluous. That's why I want to create my ideal society. A paradise ruled by the strong and the worthy.
What the fuck are you talking about superfluous things and wasting time? Can people enjoy themselves? An overabundance of people? What, you wanna start killing people? I don't wanna get into serious topics here, but some places do exactly what she wants to do, and it's not really an ideal world, it's actually really miserable for millions of people. On top of that, like, fuck disabled people, fuck old people, fuck people who just want to live a peaceful life, and no, you have to be strong, unga bunga. I mean, even Chiaki was feeling pretty weak at the beginning. Following a reason, she should have been ended there. So yeah, she asks us if we believe in her reason, and of course we say no, cause me no likey the reason of Genghis Khan. Now that she's left, there's two things left for us to do. Check on Izumu and go Zutano. Izumu is at the basement, and fortunately for him, the nightmare system destroyed specifically the bars to his cell and nothing else, and so he's already free. First thing he talks about is our teacher, not even an hello. With his exposition, we learn that there's a mannequin imprisoned in a place called Kabukicho that can predict the future. After that, we climb up the tower and meet Gozutano, and he's not having a good time. Actually, he's falling apart, though in his last breath, he tells us that his will live on, and we can start to guess as who will succeed him since Chiaki's goals were aligned with the mantra's philosophy. Okay, time to head to Kabukicho to meet up with the mannequin. Yeah, so the next Fiend Hellbiker doesn't have anything new on his kit besides being able to negate your buffs with an attack that also deals damage, so I won't repeat myself here. Moving on, Kabukicho Prison. This place here is gonna be our next dungeon, and it's actually a surprisingly refreshing one. Puzzle here is actually the dungeon layout itself. Here you use a portal that shifts the dimensions and turns the dungeon upside down. This is great, because there are a lot of ways to explore vertically, but also horizontally. There are a lot of ladders and holes on the floor here and there, and those are inverted when you use the portal. Ladders make you go down a floor instead of up, and the holes let you go up a floor. So the key to proceeding this dungeon is to have map awareness and to dominate its layout. I personally really suck at navigational dungeons, but I can still acknowledge this is good game design. There is an exception though. This dungeon has a lot of gates that block your path. This is good because it makes the dungeon harder, but thing is, to progress you need to talk with some mannequins that are behind one of those gates, and the mannequins can be quite hard to see. They're on the ceiling, and the colors when you enter the distorted space are really mute, so you can't see them well. They really blend in with the colors. I actually had to use a guide for every playthrough I did, cause I always miss them, so I think the criticism is warranted. These mannequins aren't our goal though. They tell us that they need a spoon to dig a hole in the wall, and that we should talk to the Calera mannequin to get said spoon. To get it is yet another challenge in navigation, and after you acquire it and give it to the mannequins, you still have more navigation to do. Real well designed dungeon, and probably one of the hardest ones, all the while still being super fun. Now, time for boss, Mizuichi. This snaky boy here is the big boss of the demons in the prison. He takes delight in torturing the mannequins, even though the mantra have already fallen, so it's our job to punch some sense into him for our mud bros. Mizuichi is a really interesting boss, and by that I mean he's not interesting at all. Dude has one attack that can cause you panic, can remove your buffs, and the rest of his moveset are all variations of the ice element, going from ones that do small damage to heavy damage, so if you bring a coat, he can't even touch you, and by coat I mean a Magatama that blocks ice. Okay, so now that we've dealt with the remaining mantra demons, the mannequins are safe, and we finally meet their leader, the Prophet Futomimi. He tells us that he's prophesied about our arrival here in the Netherworld and also that a man is waiting for us in Ginza. But before going there, we need to talk to our friend Izumu because he should also be here. Yo, my dude, I've been looking for you. Can you guys please stop leaving the second I find you?
Well, look who finally decided to show up. Don't tell me you came to save me. Too little, too late, don't you think? What are you pissed off for? It's not like you went out of your way to help me. It's obvious I can't count on you or our teacher anymore.
My dude, what the fuck you on about? I literally have been chasing you and Chiaki non-stop. I should be the one who's pissed. I'm starting to like these two less and less. Not that they were very likable at all to begin with, though. Oh well, let's go meet Ijiri as we do when we need to know where to go to progress. Homeboy wants to learn more about this world by studying the Amala network. Sadly for him, all the terminals are under Nihilo control. Ijiri then hypothesizes that there might be a safe terminal in the place the mannequins went, Asakusa. To get there, we need to go through Ikebukuro Tunnel, our next dungeon. And as you guys have seen till now, this will be yet another superbly designed dungeon, full of cool puzzles and gimmicks. Here, the problem is darkness. So you may ask, how do we traverse through this dark place? What kinds of puzzles and challenges have the devs prepared for us? Well, welcome to our next piece of GGD. For this dungeon, what you need to do is stop what you're doing, completely break any immersion and train of thought you have, go to the menus, shift through a bunch of random items, find one that lights the place up, walk a few steps, and repeat. That's it. That's all there is to this dungeon. What makes this such a fine example of GGD is that not only do you have to constantly stop what you're doing to pick a random item that turns the state of the game from a 0 to 1, you have to do it twice. Because in this dungeon there are also damaging floors. Do you have to find another way to progress? Do you have to carefully manage your HP? Maybe traverse more carefully? Nope. All you have to do is stop what you're doing, completely break any immersion and train of thought you have, go to the menus, shift through a bunch of random items, find one that prevents floor damage, walk a few steps, and repeat. Truly a fine example of grueling game design. Imagine working on one of the most revolutionary games ever, a game that has had banger dungeon after banger dungeon, just to come up with this sad excuse of a dungeon. The darkness could have been used in so many creative ways. Traps could have been laid about in the dungeon, making it so you have to navigate it super carefully. Things could have been hidden amongst the unknown. Surprises could await you at every turn, but no. The darkness isn't even used as a mechanic. You're just supposed to eliminate it. If you can easily eliminate it with a few clicks, what is even the point? This dungeon is horrendous in every single aspect. It's boring, repetitive, there's no interactivity, no gameplay tweaks, no puzzles, no new ways to experiment, nothing. Literally, if this dungeon wasn't in the game, it would be better for it. To add insult to injury, one of the 4 optional bosses here is pretty much unbeatable. I'm willing to bet that more than 95% of players weren't able to beat this boss without using a guide. Well, Josa, a very tough optional boss fight isn't probably a bad thing now, is it? Here's the problem. The boss ain't hard. It is literally just unbeatable because of a stupid gimmick that doesn't involve any thinking or strategizing. It's just some obscure requirement you have to meet in order to beat him. So what's up with this boss? Oni here starts the fight with 4 clones. They are all indistinguishable from one another, and if you hit the wrong one, you lose all your turns. Come on, man, there must be a way to tell them apart. And there is. 1 out of 16 times, that is. The only way you can tell the boss apart from the clones is if you come into this fight when the Kagutsushi is full. When you do, there is a shadow below the boss. Now, genuinely, please answer me. Who thought this was a good idea? I mean, I saw people defending this, saying that it makes sense that the Kagutsushi would reveal a shadow, cause that's how shadows work. My dude, we're in the cave. Light doesn't reach here. Was the whole point of this dungeon. This whole dungeon, the only thing it does is waste the player's time. And I need to stop talking about it, cause I'm getting mad. So, on to Asakusa, the city of mannequins. Not gonna lie, I was pretty excited to get here, like finally a proper town, let's go. But when you reach it, the music is pretty depressing. It doesn't matter what the mannequins do or say, with this music in the background, this place just feels like a hellhole. We explore for a while, talking with the mannequins and beating demons along the way. The city is actually kind of a mini dungeon. There's the main city where no demons spawn, but the city sprawls around the map with different sections that connect with each other. It's a very good design for exploration. Our goal is to reach Mifunashiro, the sacred place for the mannequins. There we meet Futomimi again, who tells us that there's a rebel mannequin called Sakahagi who has turned on the mannequins, and sure enough, as it happens with this game, our next stop is to meet Sakahagi. After that encounter, we go back to Ijiri, as usual, who's done investigating the terminal and found something vital. Not only did he find the true Nihilo headquarters, he also found out that our teacher is there. Let's go! Our teacher! I like her a lot. It's finally time to go to the Amala Labyrinth. So let's delve in the second Kalpa. This dungeon is yet another dungeon whose gimmick is the layout itself, like Kabukicho Prison. But here, instead of having a complicated vertical design, this dungeon has a huge horizontal layout. Not only that, there's a labyrinth. And on top of even that, the walls are freaking invisible. Yeah, Joza had lots of troubles here, but that's just how it is. What's important is to persevere after all. One thing I've noticed that I really enjoyed in this dungeon is this huge corridor. It's a long, winding corridor that revolves around itself and loops, and as such, there's a lot of opportunities for enemies to spawn in. Not only that, but this corridor is cursed, and it deals damage to the player's whole team every few steps you take. And it doesn't take long for your health to be critical. This creates a lot of tension in the player. Makes us look at the radar very intently, and you have to be super careful with each and every step. Is an enemy gonna spawn in? Should I heal up? Or what if I waste all my resources? The game also teases you by having exits at almost every corner. Do you have what it takes to reach the end, or do you want to quit while you can? As you go, you'll get more and more vulnerable, and you don't know when this will end. It's a real test of your skills. This makes the player feel super alert in all fronts. I love this whole section. It makes the player actually be scared of random encounters. The radar takes a whole nother meaning. You have to be deliberate and careful while you delve deeper and deeper into the unknown. And at the end, there's something I've never seen another game do. Nocturne, as we've seen, likes to mess with players' expectations. At the end of this, we meet Ifrit, who rewards us with a whopping 200,000 Maka. In all my gaming experience, I've never seen such a huge amount of currency be given out all at once. It's a stupid amount of Maka at this point in our journey, and it feels so good to get after that arduous trek across the cursed corridor. We're now done examining this dungeon, and as always, at the end we get some juicy info from the Lady in Black. This time she talks about the life story of our boy, the Scout Vegeta, aka Ikawa. He joined the Ring of Gaia, the cult we heard about in the beginning of the game on that one magazine Chiaki was reading. The Ring of Gaia's main goal is to bring chaos to the world. We know this because we found a lot of its previous members in the second Kalpa as spirits. These guys just want to make a world where there's no order to things. They just want to watch the world burn. But Ikawa was a heretic, even in this crazy cult. He only joined so he could learn more about the essence of the world. and he accomplished his goal. While there, he found an Amala drum, which he used to learn how to bring forth the conception. We also learned that the conception is something that happens to every world in the Amala multiverse. Not only that, but it happens multiple times to the same world, over and over and over again, in an endless cycle of death and rebirth. The Lady in Black tells us that maybe there's a way to be freed from this perpetual cycle of creation, and this seemed very appealing to me. In my eyes, it's kinda sad to see the world just die, lose all its progress, its charm, just to be reborn in a certain radical way. So to me, stopping this cycle was my main goal at this point. To do this, we need to keep exploring the labyrinth of Amala for answers, and right after this we find some. In the entrance of the next Kalpa we are met with the famous 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and these dudes are dope. We now officially learn that the mysterious old man or young boy is in fact the fallen angel Lucifer, and that he is looking for someone strong enough to end this cycle of creation. And that's why he was so interested in us from the beginning. He saw potential in the half-human, half-demon demi-fiend. And so do the 4 horsemen. Their goal is the same as Lucifer's, and as such they want to stop the cycle. But they don't necessarily want to do that themselves. They wouldn't mind if they found someone stronger than them. If they did, they would happily serve that individual. So they want to test our strength, and they'll be the next fiends we will fight. And we don't have to wait much longer for this. We return to Asakusa, and as soon as we exit the terminal room where we save the game, we are ambushed by one of the horsemen, and I loved this encounter. Not only because of the fight itself, but because of the way it was presented. The horseman, appearing right after we leave a safe space, makes the player feel like he's being pursued by the fiends. And this again just proves how poorly designed the other encounters are. Instead of putting them in random places, they could have strategically placed the fiends in locations like this and evoke a certain feeling in the play. Getting into the fight itself, I'll group all of the horsemen together. These guys are an amalgamation of every single thing we've experienced so far. They each have their own little gimmick, but it's nothing we haven't seen before. They also come with 2 support demons like we saw in the Nihilo base, so the trick here is to get rid of those 2 quickly, win extra turns while doing so, and make the horsemen waste their precious turns with summoning their allies again. These fights are just the right challenge for the time being, so I really like them. Now, back to our journey. We arrive at the obelisk, the place where our teacher is being held hostage. This is, in my opinion, one of the best dungeons in the game. Unlike the Mantra's headquarters, which was just an elevator, the obelisk actually has a shit ton of floors you can explore. Not only that, but this dungeon also has one of the best puzzles in the game. Even though I completely suck at them, I can still acknowledge their quality. These puzzles are kinda math and logic oriented. Each cube in front of you has a certain number of squares that represents the phases of Kagutsuchi. Each square advances the Kagutsuchi by 1 phase, and your goal is to traverse these cubes and match the phase that is presented in front of you. First puzzle is pretty straightforward, but by the end you'll have so many different paths to choose that you'll really have to think carefully before proceeding. On top of that, in the last puzzle you'll have to face different bosses while you're progressing through the puzzle. Unfortunately, this dungeon's boss suffers from Forneo's syndrome. NPCs throughout the entire of the dungeon hype the boss up a lot, but when you face it, it's easy as pie. The boss is composed of 3 demons, the Morai sisters. One of them heals, the other buffs, and the last one attacks. And as you can see, this combination is pretty weak. With only one of them being able to damage you, you're never in a tight spot at all. This dungeon could have had some more bosses. Stupid underground tunnel has 4, Nihilo base had tons of them. This one is huge, and it only has 1 underwhelming fight. And after that sad excuse of a fight, we ascend to the top of the obelisk, and there we finally find our teacher. But she's suspended in midair, upside down. Remember how she said in the beginning that she would help us in the Vortex world? Yep, turns out we're the ones who helped her. She feels remorse because in the end she was used and manipulated by Ikawa, and the only thing she did was be a Magatsui generator. She then talks a little bit about her motivations as to why she agreed to be the maiden. Takao was disillusioned with the previous world. She thought people didn't care about bettering themselves and to bring good to the world. She strives to create a world of freedom, a world where people try to better themselves, and through that make a difference not only on their individual worlds, but the whole world at large. Finally, an ideology I can get behind. The world is a shitty place, and we are the only ones who can change that. Create rivers in the desert, am I right? There is a tiny problem for Yoko though. She did find a goddess, and as we know, the two things one needs to create a new world is a strong reason and a deity with enough power to change the world. Problem is that our teacher wants the goddess to provide her with the reason, and that's not how things work here. It's the other way around. It seems like she doesn't have enough conviction to create a reason of her own, though this is just speculation on my part. Her goddess, Aradia, then shows up, possessing Yoko's body. Though she looks creepy, Aradia actually tells us something pretty enlightening. Go see the world through your own eyes. Don't listen to others and decide for yourself. They then vanish and the dynamic duo shows up in their stead. The lady in black tells us that the time of creation is near and that the war will erupt between those who have reasons to conceive. As a demon, we can't form a reason of our own, so we'll have to side with one of the existing ones. With no apparent route to take now, we go back to Ejiri, as usual. It tells us that someone has actually fused with the Amala network, and he sends us there to investigate. Yay! Let's revisit the same dungeon of the tutorial! This is pretty much the same thing, only difference is that there's some gimmick puzzle that lasts for 2 rooms. Not even worth talking about, and at the end we fight against Spectre again. After that we meet with our best friend Izumu, and he's not looking too good. Motherfucker fused with the Amala network, and then he tells us of his reason, the reason of the shut-in. His dream, ideal world, is a world where only one person exists at a time and has total control of it. Yes, really. So, you know about life, right? That very precious thing that has an absurdly stupid probability of even happening? A thing that you can share with other people, meet new faces, new worlds, new ways of seeing life, endless possibilities, millions of worlds to find, sharing your sorrows with others, celebrate your victories, learn, share. I don't need to sell life for you guys, right? And then there's the whole message of the game, that you can better your life and through that, better the lives of others. Well, fuck all that, says Izumu. In his words, he doesn't like other people and other people don't like him. All he wants to do is to be left alone in his room playing Minecraft. Though if it weren't for other people, Minecraft wouldn't exist, now would it, Izumu? What would you do by yourself in an empty world? I'd be willing to bet you'd go crazy 100% of the time. Izumu's edgy teen reason is one of the stupidest ideas I've ever heard. I wish this dumb piece of shit would have his wish granted so he could live alone in a floating rock for eternity. I was gonna have this as its own section at the end of the video, but now is a good time as any to talk about what maybe is the worst aspect of Nocturne. The characters. These lifeless excuses for characters are often defended by the fandom by saying that they are not really characters and that they're more of representation of their reasons. Good defense, mate, admitting that Nocturne doesn't have characters. And even if they're only representations of their reasons, they're just plain bad ones. And I mean bad representations and bad reasons. The characters have no backstory, no motivation, no personalities, and no complex feelings. Why does Chiaki want to create a world where only the strong rule? Does she have a compelling reason for that? Did something radical happen in her life that made her think this way? We don't know. Same for Ikawa. Why does he want to create a world of stillness? No clue. The game doesn't tell us. And Izumu. Dude's sole motivation in the first 30 hours of the game was to find a teacher, and then he does a complete 180 and says he doesn't care about other people. Never did. Izumu's radical ideology could have some meaning if something had happened in his life to make him think that way, but no, we're given nothing. Just a dumb idea pulled out of someone's ass. And then we have Lucifer, one of the most influential characters in the entire history of mankind. And he's relegated to a non-speaking role? Nocturne has no characters. Though on further inspection, these reasons do have something to do with the game's themes, though I don't think they were used that well. I had to analyze this game a lot and stretch my imagination to get here, but still, there is some purpose. Nocturne is all about willpower. Ikawa has so much of it, he literally ended the entire world. He has such drive and conviction, and what does he want to accomplish with all of this? A world where willpower doesn't exist. Later in the game, Ikawa states that willpower itself is the source of all ruin. Humankind's emotions and drives are like a flame that spreads and destroys everything in its path, and as such, Ikawa uses humanity's special power, willpower, to destroy itself. Chiaki wants a world where only the ones with the most willpower dominate. Here's the thing though, her ideals rob others of their own will. She vows for a world where only the truly strong live, and those who don't have the strength to overpower them are left to rot. Izumu uses his willpower to create a world where willpower isn't needed. In his ideal world, you'd have total control of everything with zero effort. I'm sure you know, the beauty of life comes from struggling. Without it, life would feel pretty empty. So yeah, the reasons themselves have potential, but that's just it. They're not explored enough, not given enough time, and that's a shame. Anyways, let's get back on track on our adventure. Where were we? After hearing Izumu talk about his reason, we go back to Asakusa, where Futomimi is telling the mannequins that a new evil is brewing in Yoyogi Park. And since we're just talking about characters, let me just add that this doesn't improve or develop his character at all. He's just telling us where to go next, and that's Ijiri's job. So off to Yoyogi Park we go, and you won't believe what comes next. It's another underground tunnel! Unbelievable, right? And this time there aren't even any side bosses to fight. As to why this dungeon is here, your guess is as good as mine. At least we have Yoyogi Park, which will be our next dungeon, and it's kinda cool. The villain of the day is Sakahagi. He brainwashed all the fairies in the park, and now they're all hostile towards us. How did Sakahagi do this, you may ask? He just did. This dungeon is a mixture between knowing its layout well and some gimmick. This time we have to climb some towers and memorize which paths have fairies over them. If you go through a path with a fairy, you get sent back to the beginning. And it's not just a matter of remembering and memorizing where the fairies are, because they switch places every time, so you have to climb the tower again and commit to your memory the correct paths. You do this a couple of times and then you reach Sakahagi and beat the shit out of him and his partner Demon, which is kind of a lackluster battle and another lackluster character, but oh well. Moving on. You collect a MacGuffin that will have no implications on the story at all and return it to Yoko, who is lamenting again that her goddess is not showing her a reason and is again possessed by Aradia. Aradia asks us if we're afraid of the future, and this simple question can block you off of one of the game's endings. Thankfully we say no, and we can continue. The question is genius though, for one simple reason. The very beginning of the game, in the character creation screen where you pick your name, the cow asked the exact same question, and at the time I said yes, that I was indeed scared of the future and what lies next. But now, after all we've gone through, I feel more than ready to grab this world by the balls and be the one to shape up the new one, no matter the cost. Our next stop is Ikebukuro, where Chiaki inherits the Wheel of Gozu Tenno and by her rewards transforms into a beautiful new form. Yeah, Chiaki, you're plenty beautiful, alright? Okay, so our two friends are now batshit insane. Ikawa is a heretic who destroyed the world, and Takao is possessed by a goddess. Well, at least we still have our boy Ijiri. See how he's doing.
See, I'm done playing investigator. No one knows more about the Vortex world than I do. That's why I should be the one recreating it. No one else has the right. Not Hikawa, not your teacher, not even you. I alone hold the knowledge to improve this world, along with everything in existence. It's him. You should be dead, damn it. I won't let you have the power of Amala. Shit! He's pulling me in!
Yep, Ijiri went batshit as well. Oh boy. In the middle of his rant, he gets sucked into the Amala network, and there Izumu actually tells us something interesting for a change. That we were naive fools and that Ijiri has been playing us all along. Ijiri using us? No way. When did he use us for something?
Listen, if you're strong enough to fight, could you gather some information? So, what I'd like you to do is find out everything you can about that group. What I can do on my end is send you to Ginza with this thing. Bottom line is, unless someone does something, Hikawa's about to take over the world. So, if you don't want that to happen, that someone might need to be you.
Okay, maybe he did use us. At least there's a lesson here. No matter how strong you may be, you can still be killable. Ijiri is a normal human and he used us like a tool. That conniving son of a bitch. And talking about sons of bitches, look who's here. Our boy Spectre! Again. Our next stop is the Amala Temple, a place Izumu found that contains a lot of Magatsui. And he's intending to use it to summon his god. Problem is, there are 3 demons that are blocking his way. And guess what happens next? Really, try to guess. You think Izumu is the one who's gonna fight the demons with his own power to demonstrate that he has conviction for creating his reason? Nope. We are the ones who have to defeat the 3 demons. And the only thing that accomplishes is giving Izumu what he wants and make his reason possible. You have no choice in the matter. You have to kill the demons and it makes no fucking sense. There's not even a hint of dialogue that makes this make sense. Izumu literally says, "You feel like beating them up? It sure would make my life easier." And so we do, which makes no sense in a narrative standpoint. This is total ludonarrative dissonance. Because for every single player who doesn't want to align with the reason of Musubi, there's just no incentive for us to kill the demons. And it doesn't make Izumu's characters any favors. He's not tricking us into killing the demons. That could have been a nice point. He's not gonna kill them himself. It just baffles me that we just have to do this for some reason. And to top it all off, this dungeon is one of the worst ones in the game. The dungeon is technically 3 dungeons. First off, we have the White Temple, where one of the most infamous mechanics in Shin Megami Tensei games comes into play. Teleporters. Some love them, most hate them. I'm in the latter half because, as I've said, I suck at navigational puzzles and this just takes them up a notch. You have to memorize where each teleporter takes you, and here they can even move you between floors, making the whole process of exploring the dungeon even more confusing. At the end, we fight Albion, cute little demon who summons 4 more cute little demons. The gimmick here is that each one is colored to represent one of the magical elements and they reflect said element. This can be kinda tricky cause the Demi-Fiend's magic hits random enemies, so you have to rely on your demons to do the job. This is the least enraging of the 3 temples. Next up is the Red Temple, whose gimmick is good in theory, but its implementation is just baffling to me. Here we need to avoid the shadows on the floor. Every time you step on one, you'll be teleported to the Shadow Realm, a different part of the dungeon with damaging floors. So here's how one typically progresses through this dungeon. You explore, you open a door, get stuck and sent to the Shadow Realm. You open up your menu, use a damaging negating item for the floor, regress, go up, redo all you did before, and if you forget what you did by any chance, which is totally valid, you need to explore everything again. And you get to a room, step on a shadow, get sent to the Shadow Realm, yada yada yada. This would be bad enough as is, but the devs decided to do one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in a game. After all that bullshit, at the very end of the dungeon you are met with 5 doors. Pick one. Randomly. Yes, randomly. They're all identical. Okay, now you're in, and you see an unavoidable shadow on the floor. Shit! Better head back and pick another door. Well, no. You're locked in here. Please go step on the shadow. Get teleported to the Shadow Realm. Open your menu to use the damage negating floor. You can't make this shit up. There are 5 doors. You have to pick one randomly, and you have a 20% chance of getting the right one. Imagine going through this dungeon multiple times already only to reach the ending and be sent back again to the beginning. Up to 4 fucking times. You think this is bad? What if I told you we're both forgetting some... Mate, this shit was already beyond infuriating, but don't forget there are random encounters all over the place, every few steps. Truly a masterful example of GGD. And it doesn't stop there. Next up, it's the Black Temple, which is here in case you missed those underground dungeons. It's dark, and it has damaging floors. Hooray for grueling game design. And at the end of it all, when your fun levels are at their peak, we find Alciel, who can insta-kill you and send you to the beginning of the dungeon. No counterplay, no strategy, just instant kill. That's cause he has a move that lowers your whole team's health to 1. That wouldn't be a problem if he couldn't attack after reducing your health to 1. I know what they wanted to do with this fight. Here's Fantasian, for example. The bosses here can lower your whole team's health to pretty much 1, but here's the difference. The boss warns you that he's going to unleash a devastating move, allowing the player to prepare. Then, after you're hit by the move, you need to come back to the fight. You need to buff yourself, you need to heal yourself. That's what these kinds of moves are meant to do. To push the player back and put him one step behind and make it so the player has to catch up. But here, there's no warnings. And there's no counterplay. But after that, we're finally free. We've done what we came here to do, and why did we do all of this again? Oh, right. So Izumu can summon his god and create the world of the incel. Yeah, exactly what I wanted. And it's such a good reward for all the bullshit that we had to go through. So Izumu is making some sort of ritual to summon his god, and for that he needs a vessel. He picks Ijiri for that role cause he sure as hell can't pick us, which is actually what Ijiri was planning to do. I don't know how he thought he could get the demi-fiend in that position, but oh well, that's how it is. Though if Ijiri told the demi-fiend to go hang on the cross, he probably would so. And with that, we say farewell to the closest thing we had as a friend in this world. Ijiri was a unique character for sure. Not that well written or deep, but he did fulfill a very important role in the game. He was our advisor. He was pointing us in the right direction multiple times. The subversion that he was using us all along was a perfect ending for his character. That moment when he goes gorilla bananas really sunk in how merciless the Vortex world can be. You did good, Ijiri. Now, rest well. Actually, Ijiri is not gonna rest well at all. It is revealed in the later Kalpa that Ijiri didn't actually arrive at the hospital in time, and as such, he shouldn't have been here like the rest of us. What happened is that he was actually reincarnated as a mannequin. Now why did this happen? No idea. The game doesn't offer an explanation. Well, maybe there is some reason he had to become a mannequin. Some story implication, perhaps? Some ramifications? Nope. Not at all. Him being a human or a mannequin, same thing. Also, since he committed the ultimate sin, he's punished by having to witness this endless cycle of creation. What was this ultimate sin? No idea. Game doesn't tell you. Keep in mind that this explanation is technically extra story content, since it's given in the Amala Labyrinth that was made after Nocturne. So what does this all have to do with the story of the game? Well, nothing. It adds nothing to the story. It makes no sense. It makes so little sense that fans try to justify it with some theory. And be sure to leave a mad comment if you feel offended by me criticizing this theory. He comments a lot, so does the YouTube algorithm. No rest for the wicked, I guess. Well, Ijiri, have fun being tortured for eternity. You didn't deserve it. Why? Because, as far as we know, he did nothing wrong. And with that, Izumu has all he needs to summon his god. The ultimate world-ending whale thingy. And take a close look at this and Noah's official artwork. As you can see, Izumu is shown in the fetal position. I already talked about the many meanings behind this in my first video covering Digital Devil Saga. It can symbolize purity, sincerity, but also fragility, vulnerability, but in this image, it has a special meaning. Here, Izumu is shown in the fetal position to emphasize just how much of a fucking baby he is. Okay, that was a lot, and the fun won't stop as angels tell us that Chiaki is in Asakusa to gather enough Magatsuhi to summon her own god. We rush there, but we come too late. Asakusa is destroyed and desolate. Yet another kick in the nuts to the player. This place that represented hope and the struggle of the powerless mannequins is now full of demons and mannequin corpses. In my opinion, Asakusa had the potential to be one of the most impactful places in Nocturne, but it's lacking, which is sad because it only needed a few tweaks to reach its true potential. Asakusa is the only hub-world where demons don't spawn, making it the safest place in the game to recover. It's also home of the mannequins, which are the closest thing we have to humanity and hope in the Vortex world. As such, Asakusa should feel like home, but as I've said before, the OST here doesn't really reflect that. No matter what, it feels like a horrible place just because of this music. What the devs could have simply done was put a happier music on Asakusa, and once it was raided, put the current dreadful music in. That combined with the fact that demons now spawn in the city would have made much more of an effect on the player. Now, we journey to the depths of the sacred place of the mannequins, only finding more destruction and death as we proceed. We also learn about the mannequins' goal. They too were trying to conceive a reason. The mannequins were a true representation of humanity. They fought against the world itself. Even though they were powerless, they still tried to create a place to belong. They wished for better lives and worked hard for that, only to be slaughtered by Chiaki. And there are people out there who like her. Why? I don't know. I fucking hated her guts before starting this analysis, and now I just hate her even more. Chiaki here is like someone stepping on a rose a child put all of their love and care for just as she can. Chiaki boasts that she's the strongest and that only the strong should live, and yet the way she accomplishes her goals is by stealing from the weak. Pretty pathetic, wouldn't you say? Not to mention that all the power she has now wasn't earned. She was simply given it by Gozu Tenno. And Mifunashiro here is yet another underbaked dungeon. But this time, I think it was kinda warranted. Developers have to make cuts when making a game. There's no time to put everything you want in the game, so some parts need to be rushed. Now what good game designers do is make the game better by cutting some things. For example, Dark Souls has almost no music that had to be cut, but the fact that there is no music enhances the atmosphere and the feeling of being alone in the game. So here, since we're rushing to get to Fudomimi, it kinda makes sense that the dungeon would be smaller. That would be if not for the fucking tunnels. Why would they make the tunnels when they could, for example, improve this dungeon? Here the dungeon is extremely short, but with all the things that are happening in the background right now, I feel it's justified. We wanna reach Chiaki as fast as possible, and that's what the game gives us. All the while showing the devastation she brought with the demons roaming all over the place. And just like that, we reach the climax. Chiaki and Futomimi are face to face, and Chiaki mocks him for daring to try and change his fate. So like, Chiaki only wants the powerful to live, but if you try to gain power and work hard for that, she doesn't give a fuck, like, You have to be born powerful? Bet you were the most useless thing your entire life. Your power wasn't earned, Gozo Tenno gave it to you, so by your logic she shouldn't even exist. Like, I don't know man, she's dumb and I don't wanna keep talking about her cause she legit makes me mad. Here we have a chance to side with her. For those who did, they would fight Futomimi as he pleads for our help. We of course don't do that and instead we fight the three archangels, Raphael, Uzriel and the other Yel. I forgot his name. These guys are iconic here in the Shin Megami Tensei franchise and they're basically a harder version of the Morai sisters. One healer, one buffer and one DPS. Still no match for us though. Go for the healer first and the fight's done. In the end though, Chiaki kills Futomimi, spouts some random philosophical bullshit and summons her god, Baal Avatar, who also spouts some philosophical bullshit and leaves before hinting that our next stop is Ginza, the place where another god will be born. But before we go there, guess what? It's time for yet another trip to the Amala Labyrinth. The third Kalpa is arguably the easiest one, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Quite the opposite, in fact. First, you'll have doors that can only be opened by having the required amount of points in certain stats, so for us we open the magic door and proceed. But if you have more spread out stats, you could open all the doors and you would be rewarded for that. The rewards include powerful demons with unique builds and a source of deadstones to fuse the fiends. Then, on the second floor is where the real fun begins. Raido Kuzunoa, the 14th, appears again and he challenges us, not for a battle, but for a game of tag. Yes, we're playing with our buddy over here. Our goal is to activate 5 switches in order to proceed, all the while trying to evade Raido, and this is quite fun. The dungeon is designed in a way as such you can juke Raido around, and where opportunities to evade him are everywhere. There are even 2 teleporters here, which are usually a bad sign in Mega 10 games. More on that later, but here they're pretty fun. If you're feeling desperate, you can always hop on one of these and sleep by Raido for a while. Having him chase us is such a unique gimmick for a dungeon and it works pretty well. Raido can shoot at you and stagger the player for a while, just like he does in this game. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my analysis on the PlayStation 2 Classic. Videos on the duology of the Raido games are in production right now, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss them. If Raido catches you, you enter a battle. The only problem I have here is that sadly he does have an insta-kill move and we know how unfair those can be. If you successfully evade him and proceed to the next floor, Raido will now challenge you to a proper battle. It's a pretty standard one, but fun nonetheless. He has all his previous moves, plus some powerful magic ones. Nothing we can handle except for the instinct. When we beat him, he acknowledges our strength, saying that his main goal was to test our power. Raido trusts us in our endeavor to change this world and it gives us an aura. As always, at the end, we have some juicy lore. This time, the lady in black talks about the god who possessed our teacher Takao, Aradia. Aradia, unlike other gods who are created by the greater will, was created by the will of witches who yearned for freedom. Unfortunately, in her world, her reason was not conceived and she became a false god, who lived in a world devoid of any energy. That's what happens to worlds who go through the conception but end up not creating a new world. Aradia then tried to invade this world who is undergoing conception in order to exist again, but she is powerless. The only thing she can do is give her followers hope. That's the true reason Yoko can't conceive a reason. Not because she lacks conviction, but because her goddess doesn't have that kind of power. The third Kalpa is done, and with that we head to Ginza. Nyx tells us that Arikawa is at the Diet Building, but the game doesn't tell you at all where that is, and I've already talked at length about how bad that is, so let's just continue. The only place to look is that one across the bridge we trekked across way earlier on our adventure. There wasn't an accessible area there, so let's go. It's time for a tunnel. Another dark tunnel. Really, yet another travesty of a dungeon with absolutely nothing different from the... Wait, fiend? That's exactly what I asked for earlier. Fiend blocking my path instead of being in the completely random location. presenting to you all Trumpeter. This dude is such an amazing fight. He has access to all the elemental magic in its strongest form. Not only that, but his magic hits your whole party. Plus, he also has Megadolian, which deals mega almighty damage to the whole party. Mega is even stronger than the strongest elemental magic attacks. And since it's almighty, it means you can't block it no matter what. Plus, he can fully heal himself. This is what I'm here for. A fair but competitive fight. He can insta-kill you. What? Dude can insta-kill you with 100% accuracy. No way to block it. Why you do this, gang? But Joseph, that attack only targets the party member with the lowest percent HP. You just need to have a demon with low health on the party. How the fuck are players supposed to know that? So, after dying twice to his insta-kill, having to trek all over the overworld again, I beat him and now I can finally, explore the tunnel. Which is pretty much the same as the other two. Nice. Fortunately, we have the diet building after that, which will be the last good dungeon of the game. I won't talk much about it, though, cause it really doesn't do anything new. The gimmick here is that there are long corridors that aren't actually long at all, it's just an illusion, which is fun I guess. There are also several bosses here, but none of them do anything new, so we'll skip them as well and jump straight into our confrontation with Ikawa. When we get to him, our teacher is already there. She doesn't want Ikawa to create a world of stillness, she yearns for freedom. And then Ikawa says this.
If you really believe in concepts like freedom and potential, why bother with creation? Were these things not present, abundant, more accurately, in the previous world? Why did you not pursue your goal back then?
Bitch, dude was spot on. The cow literally has no answer and falls on her knees. And damn, was this the one of the best clapbacks I've ever seen. By the way, for some reason I forgot to include the Samael fight in this script. Samael is the demon Hikawa summons to fight us, so it's like the last boss fight of the diet building. But it's nothing special, and I've been working on this video for way too long and I want to end it today, so we'll just ignore that. Oh, and also Hikawa summons his god, the Harriman, the god of stillness. We're on the final stretch now, all the pieces are set on the game board. It is now time to duke it out on the Tower of Kagutsushi to see who's the strongest and what reason will create a new world. When we arrive there, the dynamic duo shows up and we get a final warning from the lady in black. Do you wish to proceed as a human or face creation as a demon? This is where this video's timeline will split. On my first playthrough I decided to forego creation as a human, but later we'll find out what the lady in black was talking about. As we enter the tower, Kagutsushi itself analyzes our heart. This is where the ending we got is locked in. Kagutsushi says it cannot read our heart and thus it doesn't know if we're aligned with his will. And so we start our final dungeon. After all we've been through, this should be a piece of cake. Well, let me tell you a little something before we start. Shin Megami Tensei games have kind of a trend amongst them, something almost all of them share. You see, for some reason, these games have the most horrendous, arduous, convoluted, ludicrously, mind-bogglingly grueling final dungeons I've ever seen in a video game. These things are not hard per se, they're just so fucking long and tiresome to go through. And the Tower of Kagutsushi is no exception. This thing has it all. Damaging floors, teleporters, invisible floors, paths that lead to nowhere. It just results in a lot of time spent just trying to figure out where to go, with no real indication or guidance from the devs of where you're supposed to go. It's just a lot of trial and error just for the sake of it. If you know, you know. If you don't know, we'll keep it that way. I'm happy for you and I'll spare you the trouble. In this tower we will fight the bearers of reasons, Ikawa, Chiaki and Izumu. Furikawa being the first one. He's now completely fused with Harryman, and boy are these fights disappointing. Traditionally, the final bosses of JRPGs are extremely difficult, but this is not the case in Nocturne. Harryman here is pretty pathetic, so are the other two. I beat all of them first try with the same strategy I've been using for most of the game. Harryman comes with a very fun gimmick, which forbids certain actions from being used, like no spells, no healing, no physical attacks. This could have made for a very interesting fight, but for some reason, he drops this gimmick in his second form, where all he does is do multi-target attacks that often miss, which avoids him of his turn. And to top off this disappointing fight, we have a disappointing ending for Ikawa's character. He says 2 or 3 lines of dialogue saying that stillness is finally coming for him and that he doesn't care anymore. Lol, no shit, Ikawa. If you wanted a world of stillness that bad, you should have just killed yourself to begin with. Way easier than going through all the trouble you went through throughout the whole game. This just feels empty, cause it is. No depth, no character arcs, no motivations, it's just a bunch of nothing. Same goes for Izamu and Chiaki. Izamu's fight is a fucking joke. Dude has 2 turns. One of them, he changes what element can damage him, and the other turn uses an elemental attack that deals no damage. What's the point of this fight? If he uses a fire attack, you hit him with a nice attack. It's not that difficult to understand. This big baby thing dies quickly, and his parting words are literally, and I'm not joking, congratulations. Stole my future. What a fucking wimp. Next up, Chiaki. She's the hardest of the 3. Hardest with big parentheses though. Bitch can turn you into a fly. Like for real, fly. And once you a fly, there's no going back and she can insta-kill you. Thing is, you can block this attack by just changing your Magatama and then she becomes pretty useless. She's so useless in fact that she needs to summon 2 demons. It's kinda funny that the one who talks a lot of shit about power needs help in battle. Really makes a lot of sense, right? Wrong. This is low narrative dissonance. With the things the game has told us so far, it makes little sense to have her, out of all people, summon allies. But, oh well. Oh, by the way, we fought Thor just before this fight, but he was so much of a nutting fight, he didn't even deserve a mention. Nocturne isn't really good at using demons as characters, which is such a lost opportunity. Like, dude, you have this literally legendary character that has been remembered from hundreds of years because of what they represent, and you do nothing with them? Future Megaton games do use demons better, but still not to their full potential in my opinion. And now, after killing these 3 bozos and climbing this dreadful tower, we come face to face with Kagetsushi itself, aka the Disco Ball. Why do we call him the Disco Ball? Well, the final boss of this game we uses mythological creatures from all around the globe, for some reason looks literally like a disco ball. No joke, this is it. He does turn into a face in his second phase, but still, he goes down as easily as the other 3, and with that, my friends, we reach the conclusion of our adventure. The world is reborn exactly as it was before. A world of freedom, where humans can change their fate through sheer willpower alone. A world full of possibilities.
Hey, are you listening?
Wait. Returning the world to its previous state means... No! I will not live in a world where this cunt exists! Please, God, no! Well, I do find the cycle of creation to be pretty shitty, so why not let's turn this world upside down and forgo creation as a demon. To do that, we first need to clear the 4th and 5th Kalpa of the Labyrinth of Amala. Thankfully, this place is cool and is full of amazing dungeons. Correction, was full of amazing dungeons. Remember that cursed corridor which was only good because it was pretty small and had an awesome reward at the end? Well, yeah, the fourth Kalpa is cursed as well, and not only in the literal sense. This fucking thing is small, but even so, it's so full of bullshit. First off, there's the curse, which seems to be even stronger than before. It now depletes your whole team's health in just 2 ticks. After that, you get to a teleporter, which gets you to some other place depending on the phase of the Kagutsushi. Even though an NPC tells you this, it doesn't make it any less horrendous. The only phase that gets you the right way is the new phase of Kagutsushi, meaning that there's a 1 in 8 chance you're getting it right. If you get it wrong, and you will, you get teleported to a place with teleporters, and not the kinds of ones we've seen so far. These ones aren't even visible. You just walk and get teleported away. Not only this, but the rooms you get teleported to are exactly the same. The only way to tell them apart is by opening a mystical chest that's in the middle of all of the rooms. Remember those chests? The ones that need to be opened in a full Kagutsushi? This means that you'll be running around in circles. There's more though. When you get the correct Kagutsuchi face in the portal, you get sent to another cursed room, and for some reason the devs thought it was a good idea to take your ability to access the map. Yes, really. So, you have to wander around the cursed room, taking damage every few steps, with no sense of direction at all. On top of all of that, the actual doors that lead you out of here are cursed as well. They don't deal damage, but they blend in with the rest of the room, making them really hard to see. When you finally find one, you get sent to the portal room! Again! So if you were in this kind of situation, what would you do? You thought the right way was to go when the Kagutsushi was new, but it seems that after all, that isn't the correct way. It sent you back here to this portal after all. Maybe it's in the room full of teleporters. Those have 3 teleporters each, so maybe you have to try a specific combination. You can try for as long as you want. That's not it. As I said, the right way is to go through the portal in the new Kagutsushi phase. You go to the cursed room and you have to find another door. That's the one who goes to the correct way, not the one the player finds first. Good luck telling them apart without a map though. After that, we get to the boss. The king of this place and also the king of the flies. One of the most iconic and personal favorite demon of mine, Beelzebub. Fight is good and hard till he insta-kills you with 100% accuracy. Yes, he uses his signature move, that flies direction. When he uses that fly, you are 100% dead. Game over. Yo, so quick addendum here. The video is like literally almost done, and I kind of forgot to mention something. I mean, I really didn't forget. I kind of did it so people would be mad and comment, and I would get some more comments. But I don't want to spread misinformation. There's actually another way to block these insta-kill moves with the move Tetrakarm. Though Tetrakarm only blocks dark and light moves that can insta-kill. So, for example, Trumpeter's insta-kill move is Almighty. So you can't block that, but yeah, for Beelzebub, you can block that flies if you use Tetrakarm. But that's kind of fucking bullshit still, because first of all, you'd have to have a demon with Tetrakarm always. Just in the case of a demon using the insta-kill move. And then, like, you get into this boss fight, for example, against Beelzebub, and if it uses death flies, you're dead either way, and it's game over, and you have to do everything again. There's no way to predict if a boss will have an insta-kill move, so even if you come prepared with Tetrakarm to block it, how are you gonna figure out if a boss is gonna use an insta-kill move or not? And even after you know the boss has an insta-kill move, like, what are you supposed to do? Cast Tetrakarm every single turn? Just to be safe? Like, and Tetrakarm only works for one ally. these kinds of moves insta-kill your whole party, so technically, yes, the move is blockable, but yeah, moving on to the normal script. Remember, game over equals do everything we talked about again. So how do you beat Beelzebub? Is it even possible? Yes, you just have to equip the Magatama that blocks that flies, and that's... yeah, what Magatama blocks this move? Take a guess. That's it. Leave your guess, so all you have to do is go through the 4th Kalpa again and fight Beelzebub. If you guessed right, congrats, Beelzebub should be dead. If not, try again, and again, and again, until you guess right. Well, to be fair, the move is called Death Flies, and the Magatama you need to block it is the Magatama that blocks Dark, but still. Well, at least the bullshit is done with. Time to proceed to the next and final Kalpa. Excuse me, sir, game, why is there no door here to proceed to the next Kalpa? Well, to be fair, there was a switch that was inaccessible. That must be the right way, right? But how do I get there? Hopefully you're like me and you're doing an in-depth analysis of the game, so you talk to every NPC before and after major boss fights, because if you don't talk to everyone, you're fucked. Mothman here tells you that you need the star key, which is in a place that used to be cursed. Well, I'll give you that game, that corridor back in the 2nd Kalpa was really memorable, so we go there, find Ifrit, and he tells us that his drinking buddy has the key. Okay, mate, and who is your drinking buddy? Maybe Loki? Yes, it's Loki, thank God. Now, time to get out of the Kalpa, fight some more random encounters, you know the gist. Anyways, hey Loki, what's up? Could you give me the key, pretty please? Ha, so you sold the key to a mannequin. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Well, must be the collector mannequin, right? Ding ding ding! Thank God I got it right, or else I'd be majorly fucked. Now, let me ask you guys, what was the point of all of this? Why not just give the key after you defeated Beelzebub? Or, I don't know, have the key in the room full of treasure that was behind Beelzebub? Why make you go through all these steps and hoops to get the key? Well, I'm the aspiring game designer here, so I should know. I got you, don't worry. The reason this whole side trip exists is for the sole reason of making the player suffer and waste their precious time on this earth. Great. Moving on to the 5th Kalpa. Just need to unlock a golden door. Good thing there was only one that really stuck out for how unique and out of place it was. If it weren't for that, it probably wouldn't have stuck in my mind. This is again a good Eureka moment. Wait, where in the fuck was that golden door? Yeah, the door is not memorable at all. It was all the way back in the 3rd Kalpa, the one we've done hours ago. Days ago in real time. How the fuck are players supposed to keep that door in their minds? The answer is, they probably don't, so they have to re-explore everything. Or just use a guide, like I've done multiple times during this playthrough. But the point here is that you shouldn't have to use a guide to progress in the game. It's the game designer's job to guide you throughout the game. If you get stuck, or you miss something, it's probably not your fault. It's the designer's fault. And when this game came out, access to the internet wasn't really that common, so imagine the amount of people who got stuck on some stupid bullshit the devs thought was a good idea. Okay, so go back to the 3rd Kalpa. Find the door, and boom, you're in the 4th Kalpa now, right next to the switch, which was blocked by a transparent wall. Now to activate it, and BAM! A door next to it opens, and it's right in front of you. Good thing this transparent wall will get out of the way. I said, good thing this transparent wall got out of the way after we activate the switch. After all, its sole purpose was to make us talk to Mothman, go to the 2nd Kalpa, exit the 2nd Kalpa, talk to Loki, talk to the collector mannequin to get a key, go to the 3rd Kalpa, use that key and activate the switch, So please get out of my way now so I can proceed to the door that just opened right in front of me. Yeah, no. F you, dear gamer. Go all the way back to the Scalpa, then to the fort, do all of it again, and then you can reach the door. By the way, there's one thing I haven't mentioned at all during this whole review. A game mechanic that is very important and that the devs use all of the time, especially in long JRPGs. I'm talking of course about minigames that have nothing to do with the main gameplay systems. These are used so the players can switch gears in their brains and not get tired of doing the same thing over and over again. They're a great way to change the pace. Well, Nocturne has a minigame too. Every time you want to go to a Kalpa, you have to jump through a hole and do a minigame where you collect mecha and avoid obstacles. You have to do this every single time you want to switch Kalpas. The Kalpas themselves are a break from the main story, something completely separate from the main game, so why the fuck did they put this boring ass trash here? You just saw how much moving through Kalpas we had to do now. Imagine having to do a minigame every time you wanna go to a different one. I just downloaded a mod that disabled them. Thanks, modders. And by the way, there's another thing I haven't mentioned about a Kalpas. So imagine, you're at the second Kalpa. You just finished it and now reach the place where you have to place the menorahs. Okay, time to get them. I'll be back to this pedestal zone. See ya, second Kalpa. After a while, you get the menorahs you need. Time to head to the pedestal. Thing is, when you come to the Amala labyrinth, the way you move between Kalpas is through these holes. Now, jump to the second Kalpa, by doing a minigame of course, and bam! You're placed not at the end of the Kalpa you just finished, but at the beginning of it. Every single time you finish a Kalpa and reach the place where you need to put the menorahs to proceed, you have to get the fuck out, get the menorahs, do a minigame, do the whole Kalpa again, and then you can proceed. The game started out so strong, but by the mid-game the bullshit starts and it just doesn't stop. Amazing first half, middling middle, and the Randa's endgame. On to the fifth Kalpa, can't be that bad, right? Right? Right. It isn't that bad, thank the fuck. So after all those side tours we finally get to the final Kalpa. Awaiting us there is Raido, who joins our party. He offers us a deal though, choose one of two tiles. If you guess right, you win a whopping 100,000 mecha. It's a 50-50 chance of getting an astounding source of resources, which you can use to power yourself up for the final fight. And this is left up to chance. Why? This just makes it so players just return to a previous save and pick the right tile if they picked the wrong one on their first. Massive waste of time. Moving on, the fifth Kalpa is surprisingly probably the easiest of all the Kalpas. There's no major gimmick here, only invisible doors that can be easily identified by using the map, and blocked doors that open if you show him a demon with strong enough stats. Something that you'll most certainly have by this point. For our final boss fight here, there's a very special encounter. One of the blocked doors asks us to show it the demon who's been with us the longest, and the game prompts us to show it Albion, which is definitely not the one who's been with us the whole adventure, but oh well. Upon entering, ta-da! Albion reverts into Pixie, and a super-powered version of her at that. Turns out our very first demon partner, Pixie, has been fused again and again throughout our whole adventure and it ended up in Albion. That's why she shows up now. This is a very good nod to Pixie, one of the most iconic demons of all SMT. And it's probably all because of Nocturne. I have a thread on Twitter analyzing Pixie, so if you wanna look into that, go give me a follow there. I have lots of threads analyzing various Mega 10 games, and a bunch of memes and art for you to see, all compiled in the highlight section. So if you wanna see daily Mega 10 content, be sure to give the Twitter page a follow. On to our final fight though. Say hello to Metatron. the champion of the forces of light who serves God. On the Shin Megami Tensei universe, God is a very important figure. The Divine Will, as it's known, has control over all of the rules of the multiverse. We learn more about the Greater Will throughout other Mega 10 games. But for now, just know that it's not Kagutsushi. In fact, the Greater Will doesn't even appear in this game. It's only mentioned. Everything in this world, except for Lucifer and the Lady in Black, is just a pawn to fulfill the Greater Will's wishes. We can see the Divine Will as the one with ultimate authority over everything, thus robbing the whole multiverse of true freedom, as even the freedom us humans have is limited by what the Greater Will wants it to be. So Lucifer and the forces of dark oppose it and vow to create a new world, freed of a grasp of the Greater Will. Anyways, Metatron is a surprisingly simple fight. This moveset is basic, but that doesn't make it easy. It's just the ultimate version of the basics the game has taught you so far. And we also beat him with the same strategy I've been using throughout the whole game. After beating Metatron, we get to a corridor which, funnily enough, has the exact same layout as the very first Amala corridor we found at the very beginning of the game, in the hospital after the conception where we first meet Lucifer. And with that, we reach the deepest depths of the labyrinth of Amala and have embraced the demon within us. We've proved to Lucifer that we can be the champion of darkness, the one true demon with the power to oppose the Greater Will. All that's left is to ascend the Tower of Kagutsushi to prove our strength and take our first step into fighting the forces of light. It's a very cool concept, by the way. Angels and the forces of light not being the traditional good thing is very common nowadays, but what they represent is what's important. They represent the law alignment of Shin Megami Tensei games. These games normally are split into three endings: the Chaos alignment, the Neutral alignment, and the Law alignment. Nocturne is the odd one out, who threw these traditional roles out in favor of the stupid reasons. So Law believes in order, in rigidity, in stagnation, and Chaos believes in freedom, evolution, defiance. After defeating Kagutsushi again, the dynamic duo shows up, and in the very first time in the game, Lucifer is actually voiced now. With Kagutsushi destroyed, the cycle of creation has been altered forever, which, as I stated previously, is an outcome I actually wanted. By destroying Kagutsushi, we directly oppose the Greater Will and its wants. But before we can truly fight the Greater Will, we need a final test of strength. We fight none other than Lucifer himself, the darkness created by the Greater Will and the one who represents the rebellion against it. Now, let me be honest with you. I haven't actually beaten Lucifer, nor do I intend to. See, Lucifer is the true last secret boss of Nocturne, and as such you have to be as strong as possible. I wouldn't mind this per se, but there's a few problems in getting this strong to beat Lucifer. To beat him, you need a very specific strategy, cause Lucifer resists literally every single thing you can throw at him, except for almighty damage and the special Pierce effect. Pierce goes through all of his resistances. The problem is that Pierce combines with a physical build, not with a magic one. And to get the build that can actually beat Lucifer, you need to gather all the Magatamas to unlock the ultimate Magatama. Now, getting all the Magatamas is kind of hard, but there's one that's especially difficult for me to get. There's another minigame in Nocturne called Puzzle Boy. See, this is relentless. It has some of the hardest puzzles I've ever seen in any game. You have to spend literal hours to beat them all. Without a guide, I'm willing to bet it would take someone actually dozens of hours, and even with a step-by-step guide, it's a super tedious process that can still take up to an hour. And there's actually an incredibly stupid design problem with Puzzle Boy. See, Puzzle Boy has about 20 stages, 25, something like that. And the puzzles just grow more and more complex to the point that they're extremely difficult. And the biggest problem and the most baffling thing of all is that you have to complete all of the puzzles in a row without stops. If you quit the minigame, you lose all your progress. Imagine playing Nocturne back in the day, wanting to get all the Magatamas, and having to leave your PS2 on for days on end and not being able to play any other games or even the game you want to play, Nocturne, because you're stuck on Puzzle Boy. And to top it all off, and I'm not even kidding, this shit traumatized me. And I don't use the word traumatized lightly or sparsely. I kid you not, when I was reviewing the footage for this video and I heard the music of Puzzle Boy playing, my body had a literal gut reaction to it. I had an instant head and stomach pain. I'm not joking, this has never happened in my life ever or since. I played the Puzzle Boy music and my body reacted so harshly to it. I'm not joking. And that's only one Magatama. You need to get all of them. This includes exploring every single nook and cranny in Nocturne, doing all of the side quests, which I haven't mentioned yet, but there are optional side bosses you can kill or objectives you might do. One of the side bosses is literally a glance. I'll leave the searching of the turn glance up for you. And there's a whole gauntlet of super bosses you also have to beat. You'll also need to build a super specific team of demons to beat Lucifer. There's just no way I could beat him with this magic build I have, especially because magic is actually bugged in Nocturne. The more stats you put into it, the weaker it gets. It served us pretty well throughout our whole playthrough, but against Lucifer, it's useless. There's literally a video of someone beating him with a magic build that takes over an hour. So yeah, taking all of this into account, having to get all of the Magatamas, having to have a physical build, this would take me dozens of hours just to beat him, and I'm not willing to do that. Not to mention, I don't want to ascend the Tower of Kagutsushi ever again. By the end though, when you beat Lucifer, he... and now, let's say it all together, acknowledges our strength as the true champion of darkness. And you and your dark homies march forth into a war against the greater will. Roll credits. And that was it, folks! Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. Of course, I haven't covered every single thing. An obvious example is that I left the other endings of the reasons out, because I fucking hate those, and I refuse to talk about them. But yeah, all in all, Nocturne was a groundbreaking JRPG for the early 2000s. It created one of the most revolutionary and enduring battle systems in all of gaming. Its roots still seen 20 years later in Metaphor ReFantasio. The game also has some of the best atmosphere and aesthetics made ever since. The Vortex world is truly an imposing and desolate place which supplements the game's story and themes pretty well. And for a game made so long ago, it still holds up. And truly, the only thing I feel that's lacking in this game is story and characters. It's a shame, cause with just a few tweaks, Nocturne could have been a true masterpiece that would mark itself as a pillar of game design. If only Nocturne had the chance to have a sequel. A new iteration of it which improved on the game's faults and doubled down on what it did well.
Rend, slaughter, devour your enemies. There is no other way to survive. You cannot escape your hunger. Warriors of Purgatory.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something you might not know. Nocturne does actually have a sequel, kind of. It's a spiritual successor, known as Digital Devil Saga. The game was made by the same team who worked on Nocturne. It even uses the same engine as Nocturne and was released directly after it. And let me tell you, Digital Devil Saga is one of the best games ever made. It does everything Nocturne does, but better. It has yet another unique and amazing setting, superb atmosphere, and this time it has actually an amazing story full of mystery, intrigue, twists, turns, depth, life lessons, and all the way throughout you play as an actual amazing cast of characters with actual personalities, character arcs, and depth. Digital Devil Saga is one of my favorite games of all time, and I truly believe it's a masterpiece. This game is the perfect example of the devs learning from their past mistakes and iterating on them and make something even better. Just a quick example, Digital Devil Saga implements puzzles in its dungeon all the way throughout the game. Even the very first dungeon has some very clever puzzles, and that's just hitting the very tip of the iceberg. The game is absolutely phenomenal. So if you want to see Digital Devil Saga get the same treatment as Nocturne did in this video, and also see retrospectives on all the other Mega 10 games, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't